Welcome to the disciplinary meeting of the Board of Vocational Nursing and Psychiatric Technicians. This meeting is being held Thursday, November 21st, 2019, at the Department of Consumer Affairs, 1625 North Market Boulevard, Hearing Room South, Room 102, Sacramento, California 95834. I would like to call this meeting to order. I'm Tammy and Dozo. I'm current board president. If I could have the board members please introduce themselves, starting at my far right.
Good morning. My name is Dr. Carol Mountain. I'm the education member.
Good morning, Cheryl Turner, public member.
Good morning. Alita Carpenter, public member.
Good morning, public member Kenneth Maxey.
Good morning. I'm Denise Basta Martinez. I'm a public member and also the vice president of the board.
Good morning, Paula Amazola de Herrera, public member.
Good morning, John Gerkin, public member.
Good morning, Paul Sellers. I'm a psychiatric technician.
Good morning, Donna Norton, LVN member.
Thank you. Before I turn the meeting over to the Administrative Law Judge, Tiffany King, who will preside over hearings, I would like to thank the schools and other members of the public who have joined us today. For the sake of time, I will not be introducing those who have signed in, but we appreciate your presence. Part of calling this meeting to order today includes the Pledge of Allegiance. Could I please ask everyone to stand and join us in the pledge as led by my fellow board member and military veteran, Paul Sellers.
I pledge
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
During the meeting today, public comment is welcome on any agenda item as the item is taken up by board. Under Bagley-Keene Open Meeting Act, the board may not take any action on issues raised by public comment that are not on the agenda other than to decide whether to schedule that issue for a future meeting. A person wishing to provide general comment is not required to identify him or herself when making public comment. However, it is appreciated. The purpose of the hearings today is for the board to consider petitions for reinstatement of licenses that have been revoked by the board. These proceedings are a serious matter and proper decorum must be maintained. Please take a moment to ensure that your phones are turned off or in silent mode. Also, please make sure that you keep as quiet as possible during the hearings and that you refrain from making comments or expressions that may disrupt hearing. Your cooperation in keeping these proceedings orderly is appreciated. I will now turn the meeting over to the Administrative Law Judge to begin the hearings.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Tiffany King. I am an administrative law judge with the Office of Administrative Hearings who is assigned to preside over these board hearings this morning. I do want to alert the board members that we do have a change of order in the hearings this morning pursuant to an agreement with counsel. Allison Owens, who is listed as your second in this afternoon, has been moved to number 2 this morning. Otherwise, the order should remain the same. Is there any questions about that? Is that better, Jody? Can you hear me? Okay. So our first case this morning is Cecily Kagi. And Mr. Hine, if you could please come up to the table.
Your Honor.
And Jody, let's go on the record. And we are on the record this morning. Before going on the record, we did have all of the board members identify themselves, and I can state that we have a quorum of the board present. We're here on before the Board of Vocational Nursing and Psychiatric Technicians to review the petition for reinstatement by Cecily Kagi. This is OAH case number 2019-101004. May I please have the appearance of counsel for the record, beginning with the Deputy Attorney General.
Good morning, Your Honor and board members. My name is Andrew Steinheimer, Deputy Attorney General. I'm appearing on behalf of the Attorney General pursuant to Government Code Section 11522 and Business and Professions Code Section 4524, representing the people of the state of California.
Thank you.
Good morning, Your Honor. Good morning, Board. My name is Justin Hine. I'm from Smith Dollar. I'm here on behalf of my client, Cecily Kagi, who's here present to my right.
Thank you very much. Just a few housekeeping items as we're going forward. There are microphones in front of you. We want to make sure we can get an accurate record today, and so that you speak into the microphone in a clear and loud voice so the court reporter can capture everything that's being said. And to be especially cognizant of that when the people at the table are talking to each other, sometimes we tend to lean away from the microphones, and it's hard for the court reporter to hear you. Okay. Ms. Kagi, you were present when I met with the petitioners prior to going on the record this morning and explained the procedure for today. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
And do you have any questions about that?
No.
Okay. Then at this time, I am going to turn it over to Mr. Steinheimer to present the case.
Thank you, Your Honor. First, I would like to have marked for identification purposes, and then we'll offer into evidence Exhibit 1, which is the petition packet with the accompanying documents. A copy of Exhibit 1 has been presented to Your Honor, as well as to the petitioner, and the board members have a copy as well. Exhibit 1 consists of the petition for reinstatement and petitioner's supporting documents, which are set forth in pages A1 through A110. Petitioner's supporting documents generally include a November 8, 2018 letter from her attorney, Justin Hine, an October 18, 2018 adoption order, a statement by the petitioner, evidence of the dismissal of petitioner's prior convictions, certificates of continuing education and training, grades for courses taken, and a letter from community college notifying the petitioner that she has made the honor roll in the fall of 2016, 11 letters of support, and a document related to the Continuum of Care Technical Advisory Committee. Exhibit 1 also consists of the license certification for the petitioner, which is found at page B-1, a notice of the hearing, which is found at page C-1, as well as a copy of the decision and order from the Board of Vocational Nursing and Psychiatric Technicians, case number PT-2009-99, which was effective July 11th, 2015, and that's found at pages D1 through D22. And I'd like that exhibit to be admitted into evidence at this time.
Mr. Hine, is there any objection?
No, there's not, Your Honor.
Exhibit 1 is so admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor. Now I'd like to provide a brief summary of the petitioner's license history with the board. Petitioner's psychiatric technician license number is PT31363. The license was first issued on July 18, 2002. An accusation was filed before the board and against petitioner on March 18, 2014 in BVN PT case number PT-2009-99. The accusation was based on criminal convictions, possession and self-administration of controlled substances, dangerous use of controlled substances, including narcotics, while she was pregnant, court-ordered confinement, and dishonesty. Respondent had 3 criminal convictions between 2011 and 2012. 2 of the convictions were for passing fictitious checks, and 1 was for accessory to a felony when she was found in possession of methamphetamine. Following a hearing on January 20th, 2015, the ALJ issued a proposed decision on February 18th, 2015, revoking petitioner's license. The board adopted the decision revoking petitioner's license effective July 11th, 2015. Costs in the amount of $2,642.50 were determined to be the reasonable sum for the prosecution and the investigation. And petitioner is now requesting the board to reinstate her license.
Thank you. Mr. Hine, would you like to give a brief statement before I swear in your client?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. Thank you, board. Thank you all for your time this morning. I don't think I can overemphasize this, how proud I am to be here on behalf of Ms. Kagi today. I'm very excited for her opportunity to answer your questions and demonstrate her fitness for reinstatement of her psychiatric technician license.
When Ms. Kagi's license was revoked on July 1st, 2015, it was based upon an adopted decision by the board written by Mary Margaret Anderson, Administrative Law Judge from the Office of Administrative Hearings. Judge Margaret Anderson closed her decision with the following paragraph. Respondent presented compelling evidence that she is well established on the road to recovery, but it remains that she has been sober for only approximately 18 months. Respondent is to be greatly commended. She was forthcoming and candid about her past and was convincing in her assertion that she's trying to take her addictive personality and put it to good. She has wished every success and it is hoped that she will petition for reinstatement of her license when she has established a sufficiently lengthy period of sobriety. Ms. Kagi has taken those words to heart. She has done almost everything in her power to continue down a path that she started over 6 years ago. A path that has led to a clean life of sobriety and serving as a mentor to so many others disadvantaged or suffering through a rough spot in their lives, be it through their own addiction, domestic violence, suicidal thoughts, or homelessness. And it was a pathway Ms. Kagi knew in her heart of hearts would lead to this moment and this opportunity to re-earn the privilege of having a license with this board. Again, I cannot overstate how proud I am here to present Ms. Kagi and this opportunity for her. In addition to the petition that is been identified as Exhibit 1, Ms. Kagi wishes to further supplement. I have an additional exhibit, Exhibit 2. It consists of media coverage of Ms. Kagi's efforts on behalf of the homeless in Rohnert Park and Katati through the Committee on the Shelterless, funded by the Community Development Commission of the County of Sonoma. It also includes a recent performance evaluation, and it was going to include proof of recent certification of basic life support, CPR, and first aid training. However, unfortunately, that got rescheduled recently and would have to be removed from reference in that exhibit. I have copies I can bring forth.
Do you have copies for the board members?
I do, Your
We
Honor.
can go ahead, and have you given a copy to Mr. Steinheimer yet?
I have, Your Honor.
Okay, go ahead and distribute them.
Thank
Mr.
you, Your Honor.
Steinheimer, do you have any objection to Exhibit 2?
I have no objection, Your Honor.
Okay, Exhibit 2 will be admitted.
And Your Honor and Board, I would just like to mention that we do have 2 individuals here that are going to testify on behalf of Ms. Kagi as well. Michelle Clark, who is Ms. Kagi's sponsor, and then also Susan Adams, who is a city council member for the city of Rohnert Park.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Ms. Kagi, if you could please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly state, under penalty of perjury, that the evidence you will give in this matter shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Is your microphone on, ma'am?
Hello? Yeah, I guess I have to get closer.
Madam Court Reporter, can you hear her? Okay, thank you. Mr. Hine, your witness?
Thank you, Your Honor. I would like to defer to the board for any questions that they have for Ms. Kagi.
Okay. We'll start on our left. Ms. Norton, do you have any questions?
Good morning. Congratulations on your, what appears to be an amazing rehabilitation and recovery.
Thank you.
Can you take us back to what have you identified as where you were and how you propose to not go there again? What were the triggers for you and how are you going to deal with them?
Where I was compared to where I am today is such a different world. Today I've changed my people, places, and things. I don't know if I'm supposed to look at you or, sorry. People, places, and things. I go to recovery meetings. I do so many different modalities today. I go to church. I'm raising my grandson, whom I've adopted. I live in the moment, like today. I try not to future trip, and I try not to look backwards or forward, because I know that looking back, that was part of my downfall, and I would go fast and I would be impulsive. Today, I strive not to be that person that I was then. I strive to be the best me and do the next right thing. I work with my sponsor. I sponsor 2 other women. I have gone back to school to be a drug and alcohol counselor. I have 1 or 2 semesters left to complete that degree. I am a registered drug and alcohol counselor at the moment. Again, just so many different things. I wake up every morning and I do a daily reflection reading. I meditate, I exercise, which, I definitely need to. You quit shooting meth, you get pretty heavy. But I'd rather be this way than the way I was. Also, in working for the state as long as I did for the almost 16 years, I truly love what I did. And I didn't mean to make the mistakes that I did, but I did, and I have to live with it. And it makes me a better person today. So I wouldn't take any of it back because it's such a learning experience. Compassion fatigue is another one I really pay attention to, especially in the field I'm in now, working with the homeless, because they are mentally ill and drug addicted, So again, just so many different modalities. I do journaling, and really my grandson, knowing that he depends on me, and he today is part of my living amends. And that's extremely helpful to me, and I have an amazing support system.
And your sobriety date is?
July 19th, 2013.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Thank you.
Mr. Sellers?
No, I have no questions at this time.
Mr. Gerkin?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Kagi, you indicated a sobriety date of July 19th, 2013.
Yes, sir.
And how long before that had you been using any substance?
The last day I used was July 18th, so that's why I used the 19th. But you mean how many years?
Yeah, how long had you had a problem with drugs and alcohol?
I was injured on the job, body slammed by a client in 2001, and that's what precipitated my addiction. I was put on Oxycontin. So pretty much 2001, 2002 until 2013.
But you had an issue with alcohol even before 2001, right?
I mean, I would drink, but yes, I've always been an addict. I have an addictive personality, period.
Right.
Yes.
The record shows a wet reckless in the late 90s.
I have a wet and reckless in 07.
Okay.
And that was under the influence of Ambien and Norco.
I beg your pardon. It was, what was the charge from the late 90s? Was it?
1992, I was 18 years old and passed a bad check. And then I believe there was one in 1998 that had to do with my ex falsifying a police report. And both of those were before I even got my license. Is that what you mean?
Right. In 1998, you were convicted of what?
I so long ago, I don't know the actual charge. Hold on. Violation of a penal code, false report, misdemeanor.
Okay, and that's a charge for which you were convicted, correct?
Yes, sir. I took a plea deal.
Okay. So you actively work the steps?
Very much so. Every day. I apply it in my daily life.
Okay. Do you know steps 8 and 9?
Step 8 and 9.
Well, I'll help you out. Just to summarize, step 8 is willing to make amends.
Yes. When to do so would not harm yourself or harm others.
Well, and that leads into step 9,
Yes.
which means you actively seek what we would refer to as restitution, correct?
Correct.
And you have outstanding cost recovery in this case?
Yes, I can pay that today, for that matter.
Okay, well, how come you haven't paid it before now?
So the reason that I hadn't before now is I've been paying my attorney, and I've been raising a little boy that I adopted. And I just honestly, this was one of the very last things that I waited on. I paid off all my probation fines, everything else from the past. That was the only thing that I have yet to pay.
Okay, thank you. The Deputy Attorney General indicated that one of the considerations here is illicit and dangerous drug use while you were pregnant. Is that correct?
Yes.
I have to ask, how's the child doing?
My daughter Annabelle is 10 now. She's a beautiful girl. She's a spitting image of me. She lives with her aunt. I placed her with her aunt, which is my sister-in-law, or was, because I'm no longer married. I placed her with her when she was 10 months old because I couldn't quit shooting dope. By the time that I got clean and sober, she knew her as her mother, and she has guardianship. I do see her, I get pictures of her, and I talk to her. She's thriving in her aunt's care, who is her mother.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
You indicated you're working the steps.
Yes.
Thank you. I have nothing else, Your Honor.
Thank you. Ms. Amenzola?
Good morning. I just
Morning.
wanted to say thank you for coming up before us, and thank you for submitting all these documents. It's takes a lot of courage.
Thank you.
Dr. Basta Martinez?
Good morning.
Good morning.
You've shared with us the work you hope to do now. How are you using your past experiences to make this work go well?
Working with the homeless today,
Yes.
I use it every day. I have empathy. My past experiences allow me to understand so many different walks of life. I myself, at the end, was living under bridges and in bushes. I no longer was a wife, a mother, a psych tech. I was no longer me. I was just a shell. As I've evolved and grown and worked the steps and done counseling, so on and so forth, today in my work, I can really empathize and I can meet them right where they're at. Like I go down into the encampments and I can understand when they're struggling with mental health or addiction, and I can offer and suggest, right? Plant that seed. I never shove it down somebody's throat because I know from experience and from going back to school that evidence suggests that you can't force somebody. Hopefully that answered your question.
That's very helpful. And one other thing, it's been a while since you've practiced.
Yes, ma'am. The last time was 2015 when the boards adopted their decision. I was actually using the license. And that is correct. I continued to use my skills, though, for another 6-7 months after, and then had to lose. I should rephrase that. I lost that job because of the inability to bill for Medi-Cal services, so they had to let me go. Yes.
What are you doing now if we were to effect a change for your license that would ensure us you know what is the most recent and up-to-date practice strategies?
I have been practicing on an app. It's kind of amazing, today's science on a phone. There's an app called Quizlet, and you can download pretty much anything. And I have the Psych Tech on there, and I do like flashcards and stuff. I also read updated literature on addiction and mental health frequently. I attend lectures in regards to trauma-informed care. Anything to do with new psychiatric medications, with periodicals, I refresh on those. And if I was granted my license, I have thought of getting like a refresher course. I looked it up online. It's like $199. It has a couple videos and that kind of thing.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Dozo.
No questions at this time.
Mr. Maxey?
Yes, good morning. Thank you for coming today.
Good morning.
You've been through a lot,
Yes, sir.
and you've taken some steps through your life to recover from them, and that should be commended. What are some of the things, as my colleague shared, what are some of the things that you are doing to ensure that you have an education up to date of the most recent up-to-date science that goes around to the profession that we're talking about today?
Well, my CPR and first aid for BLS, I just did online, and I need to go in and do hands-on for that, but I have kept that up to date every 2 years, the whole time. Like I said, I do a lot of reading in regards to mental illness and any psychiatric changes in the DSM-5, that kind of thing, because having my drug and alcohol registration requires me to stay up to date. My CEUs, I have kept those up to date. When it comes to med passes or something like that, again, I wouldn't mind if the board would require me to, or even if they didn't, I would take a quick refresher course. But honestly, some of those skills I can still do in my sleep, like a straight cath or a trach or a GT or a JJ. I did it for almost 16 years, and I worked on a sniff for a really long time. And when you do it, sometimes shouldn't say it like this, but some of it is like a bicycle, not all of it.
You've mentioned that you've been mentoring as well as working with the homeless community.
Sponsoring.
Okay. Who do you consider as a mentor of yours and that's been helping you along this path and the journey to recovery?
In regards to my mentor, I would say that it's my sponsor, Michelle, and she's been my sponsor pretty much from, I believe I asked her to be my sponsor like 45 days into my sobriety back in 2013. She's actually here today. I look at my mentor as my pastor's wife, a lot of my colleagues. I have many, many people that I look up to and can talk to. I'm very honest about my past, and I'm very honest about where I am today and where I want to stay. I want to stay on this road of recovery. I like this life much better than that life that I led before.
Thank you, and I just want to, again, thank you for the work that you're doing, particularly in homelessness. The state's in a state of emergency around homelessness, and everyone needs to participate and find a way to make a better place for these individuals that are in this situation. So thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Carpenter.
Can you hear me? Yes.
Yes.
Yes, thank you for being here this morning. Did you state that you're on the road to getting a degree to enable you to be a certified drug and alcohol counselor? Do I understand that correctly?
Yeah, so when I lost my license and I lost my job, I didn't know which way I was going to go next. I remember when I lost the license, I can remember it like it was yesterday. And I didn't know if I wanted to give up or get back up. I got back up. And I decided to go back to school for what better than something that I could relate to and something I could learn from also. So I went back to school for a dual degree, human services certificate, and an AA in drug and alcohol dependency at Mendocino College in Ukiah. When I first got clean, I lived in Lake County, so that's where I went to school. at Mendocino College, I only have 1 semester left. But if I take it to SRJC, which is Santa Rosa Junior College, then I have another year. They're just different, you know what I mean, programs. And I was using the drug and alcohol counselor, and I got hired at the methadone clinic as a drug and alcohol counselor. But unfortunately, because of the inability to bill from Medi-Cal, it really has given me a few knocks in life, so to speak. But learning knocks. I am not allowed to work in a facility that bills Medi-Cal, and it's next to impossible to find a facility that doesn't. So I really have learned a lot with this journey.
So if you're qualified to do this professionally, why do you want your PT license back?
Because in order to get the right to bill Medi-Cal, I have to have the license. And honestly, I would like to build on it. I have a job offer on the table, again, at the methadone clinic. They would take me back. I left on great terms. They did not want to let me go. They told me that I could come back as a drug and alcohol counselor part-time and then pass methadone the other part. So it would give me where I could do both licenses. Do you know what I mean? And get the hours over here. But yes, and I would like to go back to school to become an RN and then an NP, a psychiatric nurse practitioner. That is my ultimate goal.
I believe you'd have to retake the test. Is that correct? Are you prepared to do that?
I am prepared if that's what the board requires of me. I did question that because it's something about 3 years inactive, right? Or is it 4?
I'm not sure.
Okay. I had petitioned, I believe, right at past the 3-year mark. So I was curious if I have to take it again. If I do, I'll do it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Turner?
Yes. Good morning.
Good morning.
So you have described yourself as having an addictive personality, which sounds a little bit more than the person that abuses drugs because they are addicted to the drugs. But is something in your personality compels you to abuse various drugs. So besides AA, can you tell me what other types of programs and rehabilitations you've gone to help you address your addictive personality, and do you feel like that has helped you?
Yes, I do AA and NA. I did AA in the beginning because that's all there was in Lake County. There was no NA, lack of meetings. So today I do NA. I do 1 to 2 a week. I do go to church. I do sponsor 2 other women. I pretty much practice the principles in all my affairs. I read literature. I keep up to date, on drugs and society and behavior. When I say that I have an addictive personality, what I mean is, even as a child, there was the right way, the wrong way, and Cecily's way, as my dad would say, right? I didn't have the best upbringing as a child myself, but neither here nor there. So I became very enamored with cleaning, for instance. It's very, very therapeutic, even today. I love cleaning. It's good for the soul. It's good for the house, right? And it's just therapeutic. So I was always a workaholic before I became an addict. So that's what I mean by an addictive personality. So if I say it wrong, that's what I mean. I feel that I sometimes can be all or nothing. Do you know what I mean? I'm going to finish something. I'm a type A personality. And I'm going to do it to the best of my ability, and do it with dignity, respect.
Have you undergone psychological counseling?
Throughout my life, yes. And in order for me to adopt my grandson through Child Protective Services is how I got him when he was 4 months old. When he was placed in my care, I had to do an extensive psychological background. I actually had to pass a ton of things in order to be able to officially adopt him. And I believe most of that is in the records.
Very good. So let's see, your convictions were between 2011 and 2012. Did I write that down correctly?
Yes, plus I had the one in 2007, though.
Oh,
I mean, there was the prior two before I became licensed, and then I had one in 7, and then the other ones you're talking about.
all right. Have you had any convictions since 2012?
No, ma'am.
Okay, and the status of the convictions, I heard that there was an expungement or a dismissal.
I expunged them myself. I did all the paperwork. I went to a self-help class, filled it all out, filed it all on my own.
For all of them,
Yes, ma'am.
and they were all dismissed.
Yes, ma'am. They're in the packet.
Thank you very much.
Dr. Mountain?
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Thank you.
Mr. Steinheimer?
Thank you, Your Honor. I think the board members have asked most of the questions I was curious about, but with respect to your work and the petition that you submitted, it was submitted in November, I think, 2018. And the last employer that's listed is the Committee on the Shelter Lists. Is that still your current employer?
Yes, I've been with them actually exactly 2 years today.
Okay. And I understand that you work with the homeless, but can you, I guess, describe a little bit more what your actual job requirements and duties are on a day-to-day basis?
Yes, my job title is street outreach, homeless street outreach, and I work predominantly in Roanoke Park and Katati. I work in the encampments. I meet them where they're at. We just started a brand new pilot program with 12 shelter beds that are at our main shelter in Petaluma, and I oversee those. I place people in those beds, provide case management for each one of them, do all the documentation, so on and so forth. On a daily basis, I also get referrals from Roanoke Park Police Department and Katati PD. I go in and I give educational overview on homelessness to the police department. It's become second nature for me to work with them. They call and give me a referral. Sometimes I'll go right out and meet them, sometimes at 2 in the morning. I'm salary, so my schedule can be very, flexible. With a case, for instance, I may take them to the doctor and complete the application for food stamps, or assist them in getting on psychiatric medications or seeing a psychiatrist. Quite a few cases I have assisted in applying for Social Security disability benefits, and 6 of my cases have been granted, where before they lived on the street with no Social Security and didn't know how to access the system. I may bring them food boxes, food cards, assist them in the top 3 things that are preventing them from being permanently housed. In the last 8 or 9 months, I have housed 75 or 76 people straight from the street into permanent housing. My past really allows me to be able to see so many different aspects of different things, you know what I mean? And be able, like I said, to empathize, but I don't ever make them feel less than. So because I kind of am right there with them, it's really easy to guide them and help them become as autonomous as possible.
Okay. Thank you for that. You touched on the adoption of your grandson and what you had to, I guess, do to complete that. Can you explain that a little bit more in terms of how you were evaluated and what the results were with respect to the adoption?
Yeah, I don't know if anybody's gone through the CPS system. I am grateful that, my youngest daughter, Annabelle, of course, we never had to do that with her. Very grateful. But with my grandson, my middle daughter gave birth to her son, and at 2 months old, they took him away and put him in emergency foster care here in Sonoma County. Sorry, I live in Sonoma. Sorry, guys. In Sonoma County. And they called me and my ex-husband right away, and they did a background check on all of us. And they found that I was to be the suited one. I almost said her name, sorry. My middle daughter is actually not mine by blood. She is my stepdaughter. She came into the marriage when she was 2.5 years old. So again, I don't know why to this day they picked the stepmother over, you know what I mean, the biological father, but they did. The idea was reunification. My daughter unfortunately failed at reunification. When he was about 18 months old, they took away all of her rights, and then we had to wait, the gauntlet of a year to see that nobody filed for anything, including the biological father, who has never stepped forward. They make you turn in special forms. They make you go to classes. They make you read books. And then when they did the final background for TLC, is the name of the company that did the adoption, they send you to a psychiatrist, a psychologist, and they sit down with you and they learn about your whole entire life. And then they also go and interview people, part of your family. They interviewed my ex-in-laws. They interviewed many people that were part of my life to see that if I was best suited. One of the things with Brian, my grandson, is during the process I was with a man who was a normie. He was a private investigator, actually, for Adult Protective Services. He decided that he didn't want to raise another child, and that was his choice. When he made that choice, he told me I had an option to either live a good life and give up my grandson or keep my grandson and walk away. It was one of the harder things that I had to do. I called CPS thinking that they would not let me singly adopt this little boy, but they did, and they supported me wholeheartedly. And in my packet is, I believe, a letter from one of the social workers. I believe her name is Patricia Romano. She was the adoption social worker. And in today's job that I do, I actually work hand in hand with CPS. I get a lot of their cases of homelessness and reunification cases. I'm asked to speak quite frequently on my story and my journey, but again, I went through a pretty heavy-duty background to get him.
Okay, thank you. And then just finally, I think you've touched on most of these issues, but if the board was to grant your petition for reinstatement and order some conditions, let me confirm that you're willing to pay the outstanding costs?
Yes, I'm willing to pay the outstanding costs.
And then if they require a refresher course, you'd be willing to do that as well?
Yes, they're very hard to find for the psych tech. The one that I could find was for an LVN.
Okay. And then if you were required to retake and pass the licensing exam itself, that'd be something that you're willing to do?
I'm more than willing to do. Let's hope I can pass it, but yes.
Okay. And then finally, on occasion, the board will grant a reinstatement but place you on probation on terms that they see fit. And I just wanted to confirm that you would be willing to comply with any terms of probation that the board would impose on you.
I'm willing to comply with anything.
Okay. That's all the questions I have. Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to panel the board really quickly to see if there are any follow-up questions. Ms. Norton?
I'm sure in your work now with the homeless and what you're doing, have you encountered homeless people that have had drugs and alcohol in their possession?
Every day. I work in a wet shelter, if you know what that means, the housing first model. They're very high and very under the influence, and it makes me really appreciate where I am today.
So that's what I wanted to ask you. What process are you using inside your head when you see yourself encountered with that on a daily basis to remind yourself of where you were and where you're going, and how do you stop that? Because that's an important thing, right? That you have not only recovered from it, but you are immersed in it. So can you help me out there?
And what do you mean, for clarification, stop that?
To prohibit yourself from relapsing.
That's where my self-care comes in, and I go to a meeting. I journal. I get off work and I go for a walk or a run at the gym. My partner today is amazing in giving me my time for self-care. I have learned to recognize when I need to step back from a certain client, right? That might be exhibiting behavior that maybe reminds me of my old me or the old ways. So that's where you rely on your team and somebody else comes in behind you and works with that client, right? Teamwork is really important. Also, we do a lot of debriefing with our clients, where we sit, in a closed room, closed session, and talk about, hey, what could we have done differently? Did anybody have any issues with this client? Because a lot of us in the field actually are in recovery that work there. So that's another plus and a benefit. And they say 2 or more makes a meeting. So there's a lot of things that I do. I'm definitely more aware today. Today, I'm aware. And I speak up when I need help.
Thank you.
Mr. Sellers?
I guess I only want to say that I appreciate your being here. I wish more of the folks that came back had done the work that you've accomplished. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Gerkin?
Just one question, Your Honor. Ms. Kagi, thank you for being here. Sitting in front of a room full of VN and PT students, what would you say to them so they engage in self-care such that they don't end up having issues with their licenses?
Thank you for asking that, actually. I wanted to turn around and look at all of you earlier. I remember when I went to school, and I was 26 years old or maybe 25, and I was in this room. And I remember watching these hearings thinking, that will never be me. But it is, and it became me. So it can happen to anybody, number one. Number two, pay attention to self, right? Be aware. Listen to your body. Listen to your mind. Listen to that inner voice. Learn to ask for help. That's a key one. And really understand compassion fatigue. That's something that I didn't know about, actually. And when I learned it in my drug and alcohol studies, I went, aha, right? My God, that was me. Also, I didn't know that possibly I could have asked for a diversion program. I was so sick in my addiction, I probably wouldn't, but it is out there. So if you see a coworker struggling, speak up, pull them aside, right? Don't let your fellow nurse or psych tech fall on their butt. And again, remember, it can happen to anybody. That's pretty much what I'd say.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Ms. Amazola?
No questions at this time.
Dr. Baste Martinez?
No questions, and thank you.
Ms. Dozo?
No questions, and thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Maxey?
No questions.
Ms. Carpenter?
No questions, and congratulations on all the work that you've done.
Thank you.
Ms. Turner?
No further questions.
And Dr. Mountain?
No further questions.
Mr. Steinheimer, do you have anything further?
Nothing further with respect to this witness, but I want to make one note for the record. Documents A-65 and A-66 were somehow inadvertently included in the record that was given to the board members. They do not relate to this witness, Ms. Kagi's petition, but I think they were sent over accidentally by her attorney. So I've confirmed with him that they don't belong in the packet, and indeed have taken them out of the packet that I gave Your Honor. So your packet does not include A65 or A66, but the board members do. So I just want to note that for the record.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Mr. Hine, is there anything else you would like to ask your client before she's excused and we call your additional witnesses?
No, there is not, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. Would you like to call your first witness?
Yes, please, Your Honor. I'd like to call Susan Adams.
Okay. Ms. Adams, if you're in the room, if you could please come forward. Just come all the way to the table, ma'am, and you can pull, you see that microphone second there, you could pull it closer to you. And Ms. Adams, if you could please raise your right hand. Solemnly state under penalty of perjury that the evidence you will give in this matter shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes.
Thank you. And for the record, ma'am, can you please state and spell your first and last name?
Susan Adams, Susan Adams.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Adams, were you in the room earlier when I talked about speaking into the microphone and using a loud voice, et cetera?
I was, thank
Okay.
you.
Do you have any questions before we get started?
I do not.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Hine, your witness?
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Adams, how long have you known Ms. Kagi?
Since February of 2019,
And why are you here today?
I'm a member of the Roanoke Park City Council and became acquainted with Cecily and her work among the homeless in our city.
Are you here today to provide a statement in support of her petition for reinstatement?
I am, thank you.
Could you provide your statement?
Yes, very, very happy to do so.
And so, Ms. Adams, it does look like you have some remarks prepared. I just want to caution you that when we tend to read from a document, we read a lot faster than we're speaking. So I need you to be cognizant of that so the court reporter can capture your testimony accurately.
Thank you. President Dozo, Judge King, members of the board. My name is Susan Adams, and I'm a member of the Roanoke Park City Council. I'm honored to make a statement this morning on behalf of Cecily Kagi, who's petitioning the board for the reinstatement of her psychiatric technician license. As you're here gathered to hear about Cecily's rehabilitation, I will briefly review my firsthand knowledge of her work in our community. I met Cecily in February 2019 when she was introduced to the Roanoke Park City Council in her new role as our homeless outreach advocate. In the 9 short months Cecily has worked in Roanoke Park, she has personally made contact with nearly 100% of our homeless population. In addition, and more importantly, she has helped place more than 75 individuals, including children, into permanent housing through Roanoke Park's Rapid Rehousing Program. In order to facilitate this tremendous accomplishment, something no one else has been able to do in our city's 57-year history, Cecily has worked tirelessly with a smile on her face with Roanoke Park City staff, public safety, Catholic Charities, and the Committee on the Shelterless. I know this because as a member of the Roanoke Park City Council, I've been in regular contact with Cecily, helping her connect with the resources needed to help her succeed. You heard Cecily mention earlier the right way, the wrong way, and Cecily's way. Let me assure you that in order to be successful in her street outreach efforts and to rehouse those experiencing homelessness, Cecily has learned to operate the right way, drawing within the lines of the sometimes cumbersome bureaucracy that is city government. Cecily reminds me very much of my mother, who was so compassionate that if she saw the need, she would give you the shirt off of her back and then ask for the shirts of everyone else in her circle of influence. In 9 short months, Cecily has found and called upon every generous resource and individual in our city. I was so taken by her compassion from the moment she appeared before our city council that I wanted to give her the shirt off my back even before she knew to ask for it. Rather than hand over my shirt, I was impressed with her passion and drive to serve those experiencing homelessness, that I began to help her raise additional funds, including for new beds and other supplies, in addition to what was being supplied by the city of Roanoke Park. I believe the one true key to happiness is to labor for the happiness of others. This is why Cecily is happy and smiling. She has figured out that to find herself, she needed to lose herself in the service of others. She has done this by serving those in the shallow end of the resource pool in Roanoke Park. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Okay. Ms. Norton? Mr. Sellers?
Nothing, thank you.
Mr. Gerkin?
No, Your Honor.
Ms. Amazola?
No, thank you.
Dr. Bastin Martinez?
No.
Ms. Dozo?
No, thank you.
Mr. Maxey?
No, thank you.
Ms. Carpenter?
No, thank you.
Ms. Turner?
No, Your Honor.
Dr. Mountain? Mr. Steinheimer?
I have no questions, Your Honor.
Okay. Anything further, Mr. Hine?
Not from Ms. Adams, Your Honor.
Thank you very much for your time this morning, Ms. Adams. You are excused.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you. Mr. Hine, you can call your next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'd like to call Michelle Clark.
Good morning, Ms. Clark. If you could please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly state, under penalty of perjury, that the evidence you will give in this matter shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. And for the record, Ms. Clark, can you please state and spell your first and last name?
My name is Michelle Clark, and it's spelled Michelle, last name Clark.
Thank you. And Ms. Clark, were you also present in the room when I gave instructions to the prior witnesses?
Yes, I was.
Do you have any questions before we begin?
No, I do not.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Hine?
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Clark, how long have you known Ms. Kagi?
I've known her for a little over 6.5 years.
And in what context do you know Ms. Kagi?
From the AA program in Lake County.
Are you Ms. Kagi's sponsor?
Yes, I am.
Have you been serving as her sponsor for 6 years?
Yes, I have.
Why are you here today?
Character reference, but it's also just a major support for her.
Do you have a statement that you'd like to make for the board today?
I didn't write it down. What I wanted to personally say is that I've known her for quite a while now, where I watched her in the old behaviors to the point that she is now with being this whole entire new person. And she's really worked massively on her whole sobriety, being clean and sober. She has excelled in all areas of working the steps, actually a couple different times, with the moves that she's made, and becoming better and better, even in career choice, helping the homeless. There was even a fire with evacuations in Lake County at one point, and she was advocating for people to be getting their medications because they either didn't have them or lost them in fires. And I was present at one time when she really was advocating with pharmacies and fighting a lot on people getting that, and including with the homeless. It's been amazing. She's somebody that I personally admire and look up to. I have sponsored over 18 women. None of them have done in their sobriety what she has done in hers. And I mean that with all my heart. She's truly amazing, and she helps a lot of other people with their sobriety, and she's a role model to an enormous amount of people.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have no further questions.
Okay, I'll ask the board. Ms. Norton?
No, thank you.
Mr. Sellers?
No, thank you.
Mr. Gerkin?
No, Your Honor.
Ms. Amenzola?
No, thank you.
Dr. Baste Martinez?
One question, and good morning.
Good morning.
When you say this particular person is more amazing than any others, can you give us 3 reasons why?
3. Oh.
I'm sure you have lots, but
Yeah. There's multiple different things. It's with being a sponsor, number one, is her meeting with me. Everything I required, I was tough and I was harsh. I was not sugarcoating anything. She met with me always on time, always there when other sponsees did not do that. Any step work I asked her to do, she did it and then some. She dug seriously deep within herself. She literally did not mess around with her sobriety, or I would have fired her and told her she needed to go. And now I just went blank.
Thank you.
Ms. Dozo?
No, thank you.
Mr. Maxey?
No, Your Honor.
Ms. Carpenter?
No questions. Thank you.
Turner?
Oh, Your Honor.
And Dr. Mountain? Mr. Steinheimer?
I have no questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. Mr. Hine, any further questions?
No further questions, Your Honor.
Okay, Ms. Clark, thank you very much for your time this morning. You are free to go.
Okay, thank
you. Mr. Hine, is there any other evidence you would like to present to the board?
No further evidence, Your Honor. I think Ms. Kagi would like to make a final statement before we depart.
Okay, Ms. Kagi, whenever you're ready.
To the board, thank you. Thank you for what you do for our community, and thank you for overseeing our licenses. When mine was taken, I couldn't understand, again, why. And I was so angry. But then I got it. I got it. So thank you for protecting the most fragile out there. Thank you for the honor to sit here today. It's really cool to sit here before you, totally sober, right? No needle in my arm, and doing the next right thing. I'm hopeful that I will be given the chance, whether it's probationary or whatever it may be, hoops I need to jump through, to practice again and move forward in my career and in my life, so I can hopefully give a better life to my grandson. Just thank you.
Thank you. Anything further, Mr. Steinheimer?
Nothing, Your Honor. I submit.
Okay, then at this time, this concludes our petition hearing. The record is closed and the case is submitted, and we can go off the record. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you, board members.
Thank you.
That was kind of a long one, that's why I asked.
Sure. So we're going to take a quick 5-minute break. It's 10:10 now. We'll resume at 10:15. Thank you.
Clean up your own house first.
Exactly.
I know you're doing it. Here.
Do we have?
I think.
I gave you her updated letter ready, Jeff?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I see. I see what happened here. I guess she brings counsel in, that's all.
And it does appear we have all board members present, so we can go on the record. Good morning, everyone. We are on the record. We're before the Board of Vocational Nursing and Psychiatric Technicians to review the petition for early termination of probation by Allison Owens. This is Office of Administrative Hearings, case number 2019-101015. Prior to going on the record this morning, all of the board members identified themselves, and I can state there's a quorum of the board is present. If I may please have the appearance of counsel, beginning with you, Mr. Stone.
Good morning, Your Honor, and board
Mr.
members.
Stone, I don't believe your microphone is on. You should push that button and a little green light should illuminate.
Hello, can you hear me now? Hello?
Can you hear him, Madam Court Reporter? Okay, thank you.
Okay, better? All right.
Better.
Good morning, Your Honor, and board members. My name is Jeff Stone, Deputy Attorney General. I'm appearing on behalf of the Office of the Attorney General pursuant to Government Code Section 11522 and Business and Profession Code Section 2878.7, representing the people of the state of California, not in an adversarial role, but one intended to protect the public interest by assisting this board in obtaining adequate information.
Thank you. And Mr. Chan, if you could please state your appearance for the record.
Yes, good morning, Your Honor. Good morning, members of the board. My name is Paul Chan. I am an attorney, and I'm here to represent the petitioner, Allison Owens. She is present.
Okay. And Ms. Owens, you were present when I met with the petitioners prior to the start of hearings this morning. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Do you have any questions about this proceeding before we're about to begin?
No, I don't.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Stone, I'll turn it over to you.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. First, I would like to mark for identification and offer into evidence as Exhibit 1 the petition packet which I have provided to you with accompanying documents. Exhibit 1 consists of petitioner's probation report dated October 1st, 2019. That's at A001 through A005. We have the petition for early termination of probation dated February 1st, 2019, and supporting documentation. That's at B001 through B054. And that supporting documentation includes continuing education summary, certificates and records, which you'll find at B009 through B036, as well as 5 letters of character reference at B038 through B040 and B047 through B048, as well as a letter of professional assessment that you'll find at B043 and B044. Then continuing in Exhibit 1, we have the certification of license history dated October 1st, 2019. That's at C001. And the notice of hearing and related correspondence at D001 through D004. Exhibit 1 also includes the decision and order in BVNPT case number VN 2010-3461, effective May 10th, 2014, at E001 through E030. And at this time, I would like Exhibit 1 to be introduced into evidence.
Is there any objection?
No, Your Honor.
Exhibit 1 is admitted.
Thank you. At this time, I would like to provide a brief summary of petitioner's license history with the board. Petitioner's vocational nurse license number is VN 244703, first issued September 22nd, 2009. An accusation, case number VN 20103461, was filed against petitioner June 25th, 2013, alleging business and profession code violations for acts involving illegal possession of a controlled substance, illegal use of a controlled substance, and unprofessional conduct. The underlying facts regarding these causes for discipline were that on or about September 21st, 2012, petitioner was arrested for possessing and being under the influence of heroin and methamphetamine. The matter went to hearing on November 13th, 2013, and December 19th, 2013. In the proposed decision, the administrative law judge found cause for discipline existed to revoke petitioner's license and ordered revocation stayed and a probation term of 5 years, contingent upon petitioner taking and passing the licensure examination. Additionally, petition was ordered to pay costs of investigation and prosecution in the amount of $1,387.50. The proposed decision was adopted by the board effective May 10th, 2014. On May 10th, 2016, petitioner passed the licensure examination and the term of probation commenced. Bringing your attention back to the first page of Exhibit 1, it does note there that there was an amount still remaining on the cost recovery of the $1,387.50. It indicated that there was a balance of $412.50. However, as of November 6th, 2019, petitioner has paid off the costs in full, so there is no amount outstanding. As for compliance with probation terms, petitioner did receive 3 traffic citations in the summer of 2016, but no other criminal matters. She was a few days late in some of her reporting to the board and failed to log in or check in for drug or alcohol tests a few times, but never missed any tests. These violations have been addressed and determined not to warrant any disciplinary action. If there's nothing further now, that's all the information I have for the board.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Chan?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. Before I start, I would like to have as marked as petitioner exhibit number 2. It's the August 27th, 2019 letter from Jerry Murmis. It's just an updated professional assessment that was done previously by Mr. Murmis back on January 21st of 2019.
So can you spell Murmis for the record?
Yes, it's Jerry, Jerry, and Murmis is Mermis.
Thank you.
Right. And at this time, I'll go ahead and.
Thank you. Mr. Stone, have you received a copy? I'm going to mark it as Exhibit 2.
I have, thank you.
Do you have any objections to it being admitted?
I have no objections.
Okay, Exhibit 2 is so admitted. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And would you like to call Ms. Owens as a witness at this time?
Yes, my client will address the board directly with a prepared statement, and then obviously open to answer any questions the board may have.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Owens, if you could, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly state, under penalty of perjury, that the evidence you will give in this matter shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, thank you. And I noticed, do you have a written statement?
I do.
So if you were in the room, I previously cautioned the witnesses about reading slower than you normally would so that we can accurately capture your testimony today.
Thank you.
Whenever you're ready to begin.
I want to start by thanking the Board of Vocational Nursing for allowing my license to be placed on probation and for giving me the opportunity to demonstrate that I am capable of safe nursing practice. For the last 3.5 years, with the exception of a few minor issues, I have been in full compliance with all of the terms and conditions of my probation. During this time, I was able to find the required balance between work, maintaining my sobriety, and my personal life. Most importantly, I have learned to prioritize my recovery. I have grown and learned from past mistakes, and I am here today to ask each of you to believe in me as I feel I am ready to continue on without being on probation. I have been working towards my dream of becoming a registered nurse for the past couple years. While working part-time as an LVN, I was able to go back to school and complete the required prerequisites to apply for such a program, and most recently was accepted into Samuel Merritt University. I am currently in my second week of an accelerated bachelor's in the science of nursing registered nursing program. My graduation date is November 2020. I'm requesting early termination of my probation so that I may attend the required clinical rotations at school, graduate as an RN BSN, and then continue on the path of furthering my career in healthcare. To date, I believe I am safe to practice as an LVN without being on probation. I have located the necessary balance in life, work, spirituality, and recovery, and it has been tested and proven. I believe that I have learned and demonstrated that only after prioritizing my sobriety will I be able to care for others. I want to be clear that my commitment to my sobriety does not end with the termination of my probation. Prioritizing my recovery is the highest priority, and I will continue to do so. My sobriety date is September 26, 2012. I'm proud to tell you that as of today, I have over 7 years of continuous and strong sobriety. I am very passionate about nursing and caring for patients within the capacity of an LVN, and hopefully one day also as an RN. I want to continue on my educational path so that I may use the knowledge to better I want to continue on my educational path so that I may use that knowledge to better serve my patients and make a positive difference in their lives and in my community. My passion for the profession and people, combined with my commitment to my sobriety, has built a strong foundation of which I am confident the safety of my patients will be secured. I have demonstrated and proven that I am safe to return to practice. I will abide and be in full compliance with the Nursing Practice Act. I have gained the tools, knowledge, and a strong support system to help me continue on my path of recovery. Thank you all for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Ms. Norton, do you have any questions?
I have no questions.
Mr. Sellers?
Yeah, can you just tell me why you had a couple of times that you didn't check in with the testing program? What were the circumstances surrounding that?
It was in the beginning of my probation, and I was just figuring out how to get into the routine of daily checking in.
It was just oversight?
It was, yeah, just oversight.
And you currently attend AA or some other recovery program?
I do.
How often?
I attend meetings weekly.
And I think I saw that you have a sponsor and you sponsor women?
I do, yes.
Okay. No further questions at this time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Gerkin?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Ms. Owens.
Good morning.
Congratulations, 7 years sobriety. How have you recreated your social web, your social network, and how does that facilitate your continuing recovery?
Today, I have built a strong foundation with the use of my therapist, who's actually, he's amazing. That's Jerry Murmis. He has a history in recovery himself. He was once a pastor, so he's able to address my spiritual needs, and also went and got his master's in psychology. So with, touching base with him, I plan to continue to schedule sessions with Jerry, check in with him. I'm more cautious and aware of who I bring into my life, close to me. And I'm sorry, what was the last question, the latter part?
About recreating your social network?
Oh, yeah, I just am able to pull on those resources.
All right, thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Ms. Amazola?
Thank you so much for coming this morning.
Thank you.
I think at this point, I don't have any questions. All I wanted to say is I think it's commendable that you have, through this process, been able to manage your being sober, your classes, your work, and I think that testifies to that you have come to a good balance. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Baste Martinez?
Good morning.
Good morning.
You've identified your trigger points.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about what you do when you immediately notice that might be in your sphere, some of those trigger points?
Immediately, I have learned to stop, take a step back, take some time to reflect on what's going on. Don't make any rash decisions, and reach out if I'm in question of if it's a trigger, if it's good for me, bad for me. If I'm at all in question, I'm able to reach out to my sponsor. We touch base, by text anytime. And what was the second part? I'm sorry.
Well, I'm going to ask the second.
Oh, okay.
What are the trigger points?
My triggers personally are, You know, I tend to give myself to people who don't deserve it. For example, my past relationships, I'm a fixer. I go try to fix everything instead of taking a step back and realizing I need to prioritize myself first.
You're in a pretty intense academic program. And once you complete this RN, do you have some additional goals, and what are they?
My goal is to obviously graduate with my RN BSN. And after that, I'm not exactly sure what field of nursing I want to go into. I've not yet identified in the acute care setting. I worked on med-surg as an LVN for years, so that was a great learning process. But after that, I'm not really sure what department yet I want to go into.
And that feels comfortable?
That does. I feel open-minded to, I haven't yet started my clinical rotations, so I hope to see more in my clinical rotations and speak to nurses on the floor, their likes and dislikes, and develop an idea of the department myself before deciding.
Okay. And you understand the reason I ask, because when you tell me about your triggers, not knowing oftentimes can drive someone to fall back.
Sure.
And I just want to make sure I heard you correctly. You're comfortable with not knowing at this moment.
I'm comfortable with not knowing the specific department I want to go into, or once I get my RN, where exactly I want to go with that and what I want to do with that.
Okay.
Yeah, I know I want to help people. In the acute care setting, I'm currently researching critical care nursing. I've looked into nurse practitioner, but I'm not exactly sure where I want to go with that yet specifically.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Dozo.
No questions at this time. Thank you.
Mr. Maxey?
No questions for me.
Yes, thank you for being here this morning.
Thank you.
Is it required that you be off probationary status for your RN program?
That's a tricky one. It all depends on the clinical site. So we have locked down our first clinical site. The school is able to tell us where that's at UCSF. But the further site, the sites later in the program, I'm not sure if they are conducive to allowing me to be on probation or not. When I initially was researching LVN to RN schools, I wasn't able to get accepted into a lot of them because of my license, because of the clinical setting issue. So as of right now, I know my first rotation does allow my license to be on probation, but we don't know the later sites to. Yeah.
Going forward, okay.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Well, congratulations on your sobriety and your academic success.
Thank you.
And I have no further questions at this time.
Ms. Turner?
Yes, thank you. Good morning.
Morning.
So the record Thank you. Good morning. The records seem to indicate that there was a court-ordered for you to comply with some sort of program that you did not complete. What happened? Why didn't you complete that?
Yeah, so that stipulation was requiring me to, as my probation monitor explained it, to go back into in rehab, into inpatient rehab, because I initially completed a rehab and a 30-day rehab, and then voluntarily submitted myself to another 90-day inpatient rehab physically near where I live. And then sober living, when I was researching that stipulation, I contacted several different rehabs and the county manager, and they all said that they would not accept me in their rehab because at that time, I believe I had over 2 years of continuous sobriety. And their reasoning was that I would be putting myself at risk living and working near patients in acute withdrawal and in their first couple days of sobriety, according to him.
All right, and what are the status of your convictions?
I'm not exactly sure what that. Oh, my criminal convictions?
Yes, criminal convictions.
Oh, everything was I don't know the legal word. Sorry.
Dismissed and expunged.
Dismissed, yes, sorry.
All right.
Thank you.
Any subsequent convictions since 2012?
No.
Thank you.
Dr. Mountain?
Hello, and welcome. Congratulations on all you've done. I just have one quick question. It's pretty well established that nursing school is incredibly stressful.
Yes.
And on top of that, you're in an accelerated program, which kind of ratchets it up one more time.
Yeah.
And I just want to know, do you have a plan for self-care at this time as the program that you're on intensifies, so you won't think about other options and you'll keep on a good path? Can you just address that a little bit?
Absolutely, yeah. I have set out a plan for to continue my spiritual studies and my spiritual work within my church. I know to prioritize diet and physical exercise and sleep. I know that's a priority, especially in nursing school. And yeah, that's my plan. And if any stresses come up, I know who to reach out to, who to talk to, and utilize those resources.
Just out of curiosity, do you have a support system of somebody who's been through that experience, or you've already connected with your classmates who can help you and assist you? How long is your program?
My program is a year, start to finish, yeah. And actually, my mother is an RN who completed a similar program years ago. My brother's an RN, my cousins are RNs, my aunts are RNs, so I have resources there with family.
Excellent. No further questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Stone, do you have any questions?
I have a few follow-up questions. Are you still continuing with the 12-step program?
I am.
And how often?
I attend meetings weekly.
Was there was any step for you a particular breakthrough?
That's a good question. Well, the toughest step was the first one, admitting I have a problem. I think the fourth step, where you kind of outline all of your resentments and then go back and identify where they come from. I had a really long, I think it was like a 40-something page fourth step, and going back and realizing where every, all of my weak areas and where these stem from was pretty revealing.
And you've also been in some group therapy, is that right?
Yeah, I attend a weekly nurse support group.
Is that the We Care nurse support group?
Yes, that's correct.
And can you describe a little bit about how that is for you?
Yeah, nurse support group it's an excellent, I'm so glad that was one of my stipulations. I didn't even know that resource existed, but it's a way for nurses in probation and diversion to get together once a week and discuss their stressors at work, at home. Sometimes that's hard as nurses, as we have HIPAA. We're not able to discuss patient information, and nobody really knows the stresses of a nurse like another nurse. So it's been a great group that way.
And then also you attended a chemical dependency treatment program, is that right?
I'm not quite sure.
Did you have any, other than the We Care nurse support group, any other therapy or groups that you?
So I attend weekly AA, and then I meet with my therapist twice a month.
That's Jerry Murmas?
That's Jerry Murmas, correct.
That's ongoing?
Yes.
I don't have anything further.
Okay, thank you. Our panel, the board, one more time. Ms. Norton? No questions. Mr. Sellers?
No questions.
Mr. Gerkin?
No, Your Honor.
Ms. Amazola?
No, thank you.
Dr. Baste Martinez?
No further questions.
Ms. Dozo?
No further questions, thank you.
Mr. Maxey?
But, Your Honor.
Ms. Carpenter?
No questions, thank you.
Ms. Turner?
No, Your Honor.
And Dr. Mountain? Okay, thank you. Mr. Chan, would you like to ask any questions or have Ms. Owen make a final statement?
No, but I'd like to just address briefly as closing
Okay.
statements. Thank you for your time, members of the board, Your Honor. It would not be inconsistent or contrary to the board's mission of protection of the public in granting this particular petition for early termination of probation. As already indicated, my client has successfully been on probation since May 10th of 2016. As of today, she's been on probation for almost 3.5 years. And outside of a few little minor violations towards the beginning, she has been full compliant. The cost recovery issue has been fully paid since November 6th of this year. I think good cause has been demonstrated. I think she has earned this opportunity to request this request from the board, and I would request that it be considered and granted. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other witnesses or evidence,
No,
Mr.
that's
Chan?
all, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. At this time, this petition hearing has concluded. Yes.
Ken Swenson, General Counsel for the Board. I just want to make sure, for purposes of clarity of the record, if the tribunal has admitted Exhibit 1, the jurisdictional documents. I understand that they were moved in. I just don't recall hearing that they were admitted.
Yes, they were. So the entire petition packet was admitted into evidence.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. At this time, this petition hearing has concluded. The record can close, and the case is submitted. We can go off the record. Thank you very much. Jurisdictional ones where they
I have my phone off, but that was an emergency call that came through.
Everything, yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I think that the big one, what he's concerned about is that we have to make sure that this part here is stated, because otherwise it establishes your right to hear this.
And they don't say A, B, C, D.
They are, but you just kind of, because the A part is so big. Yeah.
Okay, we're,
Here's the notice of decision.
Which is different.
Which is, yeah. So, I mean, those are comments.
Of course.
And
For a year?
2 years.
So you're doing it 10:30.
Exactly. And we expected to be moving in about April of February 1st. I was gonna have my tenants. Agreed. It was all good. And about 2 months ago with this month's check.
Thank you.
You know what?
The next case to be called is Juan Coronado.
April's not the date, like 20 days from now is the date that I've got to get out of my house and get into the new house. And so all the papers suddenly are just getting them all right now. So the house is full of contractors and it's pretty hectic.
And we do have everybody present, so we can go on the record. Good morning, everyone. We are on the record before the Board of Vocational Nursing and Psychiatric Technicians to review the petition for reinstatement by Juan Coronado. This is Office of Administrative Hearings, case number 2019-101-009. Prior to going on the record, all board members identified themselves, and we do have a quorum of the board present. My name is Tiffany King, and I am the administrative law judge with OAH who is assigned to preside over this matter. If I can please have the appearance of counsel for the record, beginning with Mr. Steinheimer.
Thank you. Good morning, board members, and Your Honor. Andrew Steinheimer, Deputy Attorney General, appearing on behalf of the Attorney General pursuant to Government Code Section 11522, representing the people of the state of California.
Thank you. And Mr. Coronado, I will note for the record that you are present and representing yourself today. Is that correct?
That's correct, Your Honor.
And were you previously advised that you could have retained counsel to represent you today?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Coronado, were you present when I met with the petitioners prior to hearing and went over the procedure today?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you have any questions regarding today's process?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you very much. At this time, I am going to turn it back over to Mr. Steinheimer so he can present the petition.
Thank you, Your Honor. I would like to have marked for identification, and then I'll offer it into evidence, Exhibit 1, which is the petition packet with the accompanying documents. The board and the petitioner have been provided a copy of Exhibit 1. Exhibit 1 consists of the petition for reinstatement and supporting documents, which are identified as A1 through 12. And this includes the petition itself and a notice of completion of a 3-month first offender program on November 18th, 2014. Exhibit 1 also consists of the license certification, which is found at page B1, a notice of hearing with related correspondence found at pages C1 through C8, as well as the default decision and order from BVN PT case number PT 2006-766, which was effective October 24th, 2015, and the decision and order, again from the same case number, which was effective November 20th, 2009, which is set forth in Exhibit 1 as E1 through 23. I'd like to have these Exhibit 1 admitted into evidence at this time.
Is there any objection?
No, Your Honor.
Exhibit 1 is admitted.
Thank you. Now I'd like to provide a brief summary of the petitioner's license history with the board. Petitioner's license number is PT 32359. The license was first issued on September 13, 2004. On April 24, 2009, a second amended accusation was filed before the board against petitioner in case number PT 2006-766. The accusation alleged that petitioner was subject to discipline based on unprofessional conduct and dishonesty. The unprofessional conduct included engaging in prohibited acts with a minor female client, including holding hands and embracing the minor. Respondent was also dishonest when he was initially questioned during the investigation of the matter. Following a hearing on August 5, 2009, the ALJ submitted a proposed decision placing petitioner on probation for a period of 3 years. The decision also ordered petitioner to pay $15,000 in prosecution and investigation costs. The proposed decision was adopted by the board effective November 20th, 2009, at which time petitioner was placed on probation. On September 24th, 2014, a first amended accusation and petition to revoke probation was filed before the board. The accusation and petition to revoke was based on 7 convictions between 2010 and 2014 for speeding, vandalism, driving under the influence, driving with a suspended license, and resisting arrest. The accusation and petition to revoke also charged petitioner with making a false statement on his renewal application because he did not disclose his convictions. The accusation and petition to revoke also charged petitioner with possession of dangerous drugs and making false statements in patient records. Petitioner also had failed to make complete quarterly reports as required by his probation and failed to make cost recovery payments. The petitioner failed to appear at the administrative hearing, and thus, effective October 24, 2015, his probation was terminated and his license was revoked. Petitioner still owes $14,340 from the original order of probation, and petitioner is now requesting the board to reinstate his license.
Thank you. Mr. Coronado, do you have any documents you wanted to submit?
Yes, Your Honor. I have 2 character letters, employer performance letter.
And did you bring enough copies for the board members?
My statement for today. Yes, I have.
Okay. First, why don't I swear you in so I don't forget to do that later? If
Okay.
you could please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly state under penalty of perjury that the evidence you will give in this matter shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, thank you. And if you could bring me your character letters, and you said you have a written statement? Okay.
I can't hear you. There are 4 documents total, and they're all put together.
Have, okay, understood. Let me just identify these for the record. Mr. Steinheimer, do you have copies of the petitioner's exhibits?
I don't yet.
So I'm going to mark as Exhibit 2. There are 2 character reference letters, one from a Kimberly Westbay, that's Westbay. The second letter is Alicia Castaneda, Castaneda, and I'm going to mark those 2 letters collectively as Exhibit 2. Our mark is Exhibit 3, an employee performance review from Costco. It says the review discussion date is December 6, 2017. And our mark is Exhibit 4, the personal statement by petitioner. It's dated November 21, 2019, and it is 2 pages long. Mr. Steinheimer, have you had a chance to review these documents?
I have, and I have no objection to them, Your Honor.
In that case, Exhibits 2 through 4 are hereby admitted. And Mr. Coronado, whenever you'd like to make your statement.
Okay, Your Honor. There's copies there for the board members.
Oh, okay. Can you help me pass these out so for expediency? Yeah, so I took about half of them. I'll get this side of the board if you want to start with.
I can pass it down.
All right, great. So this one is the green, that's the last one.
Okay. Last one with the green.
The last one is the green one.
Okay, thank you. Everybody received one?
Do all board members have a copy of Exhibits 2 through 4?
Yes.
Okay.
The last one with the green is a packet.
Yes.
So, Mr. Coronado, as we discussed prior to going on the record this morning, what the board is really interested in is your rehabilitation. They don't need you to restate everything that's in your packet. They've already reviewed that packet before convening today. So I'll turn the floor over to you now.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor. Good morning. I'd like to thank each and every one of you for today's hearing. I'd like to go back to March 2009. My father had just passed away, and I was going through a difficult time in my marriage. In January of 2010, I moved out of the family home and filed for divorce. Subsequently, in May of 2010, my mother also had passed away. The next several years were filled with family court appearances and child custody hearings, approximately 50 in 5 years. In January 2012, I received my first and last DUI, driving under the influence. During that same time frame, I also had 2 run-ins with the law, misdemeanors, each time notifying the board, BVNPT, as well as my employer. I have no excuse for the things I did, realizing only that I suffered too many stressful, life-changing events closely together, and I cope with them in an extremely poor manner. For that, I apologize. I have since corrected my mistakes with the Superior Court of California, my employer, Family Law Court, and I'm now asking for the opportunity to do the same with BVNPT. I have not been in any further trouble with the law and have fulfilled my legal obligation throughout the past 6 years. I have made so many mistakes, gone through heartaches, and have many regrets. I have caused tremendous pain, disappointment, and embarrassment to my family, friends, and BVNPT. My employer and myself have lost over 2/3 of my monthly wages for the past 4 years and have been without medical benefits. It has been a major financial and has been major financial and psychological struggle. I have realized my mistakes and taken full ownership of them. I cannot go back in the past. However, I could take what I have learned from it and become a better person. I have definitely grown and matured throughout all of these life lessons. If I was allowed the opportunity to have my psychiatric license reinstated, I'd be so honored and grateful. There would be no problem complying with everything expected of me. I would like to recommend, upon the board's favor, decision to reinstate my psychiatric license, that 25% of my gross monthly income be automatically deducted to repay recovery costs. It will take approximately 15 months to pay back in full. I would also like to recommend, as a show of good faith, that I be placed on probation until the total cost of recovery is paid in full, or until whatever the board determines to be fair. I am in a much better place in my life now. I have been rehabilitated. My life is calm and stable. I would just like the opportunity to prove that to my family, friends, the BBN PT, my employers, myself, anyone who has or was directly or indirectly hurt by my actions. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Ms. Norton, do you have any questions?
Yes. So thank you for your opening statement. Very heartfelt, very well delivered. Gave me a different opinion than what I first saw in the packet. So thank you for that. Can you tell me, I noticed in your packet that you say that you still drink on occasion.
On occasion, yes, I still drink.
So then you would not consider yourself to be an alcoholic?
I'm not going to say I'm not alcoholic, because if I was an alcoholic, I wouldn't have got my DUI nearly 8 years ago. What I do now is a lot smarter choices. When I do decide to drink, I make sure it's at a home. Usually, I know for a fact I don't drive. I'm usually have someone that's going to drive for us, or most of the time it's just being at home, and it's no more than 5-6 times out of the year. And when I do drink, I don't get belligerent. I'll make sure I have 2 mixed drinks tops, or 4 beers tops.
Okay. So frequently when we have, so you went through a rough time, like understandably, you had a lot of stressors that caused you to act out.
Correct.
So what can you say to us now that we could be assured that that stressor wouldn't happen again, especially if you did get a DUI, and I don't want to put any words in your mouth about what caused you or how you dealt with that stress, but how would you deal with it now so that I could feel good about granting you back a PT license? And then the second part of that question is that frequently with drug and alcohol related crimes, we place people on a probationary status, and one of the conditions is that refrain from alcohol. Would you have an issue with that?
No, I do not have an issue with alcohol. I don't do drugs. Like I mentioned, I do drink on occasion. I can't say that I don't have a problem, because I got a DUI nearly 8 years ago. But if it was the board's decision to have me take classes or to submit, tests, I have no problem with that. That would inspire me to quit drinking all in general. But I'm not going to sit here today and tell you that I don't drink, because that would just be a lie.
Okay, thank you for that. It's been a while since you practiced.
Yes.
What have you been doing to stay current, or how would you get up to speed?
Yes, I still have my notes from when I went to Psychiatric school. I still review any pamphlets, handouts on the internet, the CEUs. We were required to have 30 CEUs in 2 years. Within the last 4 years, I have gone through 60 CEUs just on my own. I don't have an employer where I need to submit that to, but I have been staying on top of it, pharmacology, mental health disorders. So if I was allowed to go take my license again, I'll be ready and I'll continue to study so I could pass the boards. When I got my license for the first time, I never worked as a psych tech, but right out of school, I passed the first time because I was well prepared, and I would be well prepared, knowing that I would have to take the test all over again. But I have 11 years of being a psych tech. I have my life, failures, disappointments, and learned lessons that will help with that. And now I'm 48 years old. I'm a lot older, more mature. So I feel that I have better judgments. My life is stable. My children are grown adults, 20 and 25 years old. I'm happily divorced for 9 years, 11 months. So I'm in a much better place now. My parents are deceased for 9 and 10 years. I've accepted that. I grieved through that, and I'm the healing process have gone through. And for the last 6 years, I have not gotten in trouble with the law. I've been walking a straight and narrow line.
So you appear to be very successful, your letters from your employers now and your character references. Why go back into PT?
Because working outside of the state, while I was working as a psych tech, I made starting out at $60,000 to $90,000. Now working back I'm not working for the state. I'm working as a forklift driver. I'm making $30,000. I lost 2/3 of my income, and monetary is very important, but also having that pride. At the time, I didn't appreciate my psychiatric technician license. Walking into a prison for 9 years and having your co-workers, your LVNs, RNs, correction officers, your associate wardens, all of us having that pride, having a title, an occupation that we have so much pride in, and that feeling I don't have anymore. For the last 4 years, I've been feeling very embarrassed, disappointed in myself. I'm the only one to blame. So if I was given another chance, I'm so hungry to have that again. I will not fail.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Mr. Sellers?
Yes, good morning. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
So I have some concerns, and I'll just kind of talk about them. You were once placed on probation, and the reason that your license was ultimately revoked was your failure to maintain to keep up with the requirements of the probation. I'm not going to question whether or not you're an alcoholic. That's up to you, I think. However, that then leaves that your character. You failed multiple times to report properly to the board. You failed multiple times to you were arrested several times. There were incidents of I think trespass and some other incidents that happened. So why now would you be successful? You had so much difficulty not very many years ago. Can you point to, have you perhaps participated in any therapy? Have you been involved with any religious organization? Can you point to something that tells me that now it's different? This is a different guy, different circumstances.
Yes, all these incidents that happened, they're totally correct. I did fail to comply, and this happened in 2010 to 2013. That was the most difficult time of my life, which was 6 and 9 years ago. And I lost my job for the last 4 years, like I mentioned. I've struggled financially, psychologically. I've learned my lesson the hard way, and my life is stable. I'm in a better place. I'm a better person, and I will never step back to repeat those things again. I regret them, but I took care of them with the courts, with the costs, with everything. And I'm not that person. I would not do it again. and I handled it in the wrong way with tremendous loss for my parents. A divorce is like a loss of a family member. Court hearings, all these things were going on during the same 3 years, from 2010 to 2013. Now we're in 2019, almost 2020, and I have not gotten in trouble with the law in 6 years. My children are 20 and 25 years old. My oldest has a child of his own. So everything's stable. There's good relationships. Everything's much peaceful. I'm not the same person. I will not do those same things.
I guess, again, I agree with you. You had a good paying job and made bad decisions and were once given an opportunity to be on probation and correct that, and again failed the probation. You say right now things are good and thought life is stable and therefore don't worry. What happens, by your own admission? I'm a psych tech. I know exactly how stressful the job you'll be going back into is. What happens when you get back in and life continues to happen, which it will. There will be stressors that will come down the road. What are you going to do? What has changed? How will you avoid falling back to old behaviors? What have you done substantially to change that?
Yeah, now I have good networks out there. I have my significant other, her parents. They talk to me, we talk. I have my neighbor that's a 77-year-old elder that I talk to. I have my two sisters that I've grown a really strong relationship close to. So I have a network. And prior to that, I made a mistake trying to handle this all by myself, by my own pride. And I'm not that person anymore. I will reach out. And if I need counseling, I will get the counseling because of knowing the steps and the failure that I did back then. But as far as going back to the psych tech, as my job itself, I always had good evaluations. I know how to handle the stress there. I know that there's EAP there. I know there's, your supervisor you could talk to. That was never a problem. It was outside of work that was the problem in my life that caused my license to be lost. But at work itself, working at the prison, I had good work history there.
You mentioned networks. What networks do you have that you would fall back to? Is it your family that you mentioned, or is there more networks? That was your words.
My network of support with my family members, my significant other, her parents, and my neighbor. He's an elder, a man that I respect, a man that's always been there. I talk to. He's like a father figure to me. That's the next thing I have as a father figure, and I've known him for years.
I thank you very much. I think that's all the questions I have.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gerkin?
Yes, Your Honor, thank you. Good morning, Mr. Coronado. You seem to be focusing quite a bit in your testimony on your decisions made between 2010 and 2013.
Correct.
And you have been on probation with this board before. And one of the reasons you were on probation relates to your time in state service back in 2006. And at the time of the hearing, which caused your license to be placed in probationary status, there was a lot of discussion about the events of June 8th, 2006. You seemed to testify then that you had lost your card, your ID, you didn't loan it to anybody. So is it your testimony today that you did not go out door 120 into the backyard of Unit 7?
That evening at that employer that I do not work for anymore at PDC, what happened was there was a containment. My badge was on a lanyard that's broke off. It broke off after we put the client in a 5-point restraint. My card was used by a client or someone else. And when I noticed it, I ended up finding it back again, but I didn't know that they used to go outside. And the security guard that mentioned that was a former student that we went to high school with that we never got along with. We actually had a couple altercations prior to that.
Well, isn't it true that the card had been used multiple times to
It
go
was
out
used. It was used during the time that we had.
Mr. Coronado, I do need to ask that you let Mr. Gerkin finish his full question before you begin to answer.
Sure. There were multiple times when the card was used, and that was documented. And it appears to have been your testimony at that time of the hearing that there were issues regarding the reliability of the computerized documents that related to capturing the information on your card.
At the moment, during that time when we had the representative on boards, I think it was Steve Bassoff represented me.
Yes, please.
During that period, Steve Bassoff had recommended that to the investigator. That may have happened, but that evening when there was a altercation between two clients, my badge, my lanyard was broke off. That evening, it was used, only on that evening.
Okay, do you recall that the documentation was provided wherein there were records of multiple exits from that door? Do you remember that?
I remember of that, and I remember it being that evening of going in through multiple doors, yes. Seeing that as far as on the paperwork, as far as the investigator.
Okay, and ultimately what happened was there were allegations that you had engaged in personal boundary violations or boundary issues?
Yes, that's correct. There was allegations that.
And do you deny that there were any boundary issues in your case?
That's correct. I deny that. There was no boundary issues.
Notwithstanding, and you read the decision of the administrative law judge, which placed your license in probationary status?
Yes, that's correct.
So you disagree with the factual findings?
I did disagree, but the findings were their findings. It was through their investigator, and there was a great amount of cost recovery of $15,000, but I had no say-so as far as what their finding was and what the cost was going to be.
No, I'm not talking, though, about the cost recovery and the amount of time and resources of the subsequent investigation. I'm talking about the underlying issues related to the use of your card.
Yes, I understand as far as what his investigation was, as far as the card being used to go in and out of the unit.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Ms. Amazola?
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
It's still morning. I just have one question with regards to the cost recovery. Is there a reason why you have not started making payments towards that?
Yes, there is a reason. It's financial reason. I get $13.50 an hour where I used to earn $36 an hour. So I'm barely able to pay my rent and utilities. I have no medical, dental, no insurance whatsoever. And I'm just making it paycheck to paycheck.
Mm-hmm.
So I have no resources to make even a $10 payment a month.
Okay.
It's financial obligations, not having the means. And this is why I said if I was reinstated as a psychiatric technician, I would volunteer a wage garnishment to take out 25% of my income, because now I'm able to live off of what I'm currently getting.
Mm-hmm.
So I could afford a 25% deduction from my psychiatric technician pay.
Thank you so much for your candid response. I appreciate that. Thank you. That would be all for me.
Thank you. Dr. Baste Martinez?
Good morning.
Good morning.
I just want to follow up and clarify just a little bit. You mentioned, and we also have in writing, that you would be willing to give up to 25%
That's correct.
of your earnings. If you were on probation, there is the potential of testing, which has a cost. And it must be paid.
Mhm.
And that cost goes directly, it would go directly to you.
Mhm.
That, along with potentially some other fees, would that affect the 25%, or is that part of what you see the overall 25% to be?
No, that would not affect the 25%, because when I calculated that 25% being 15 months, I thought it would be the 15,000, actually 14,000 and some, plus another, I seen in the paperwork of a second investigation of 5,400. So I thought it was a total of 20,000. So that's why I calculated 25% would take 15 months. But no, it would not affect that whatsoever.
So just for clarity, your understanding, yes, we do need to complete that payment, but
Correct.
that also you understand there is the potential of the cost of testing, drug testing, alcohol testing,
Yes,
et
I have
cetera.
no problem with that, no problem whatsoever, especially if I could prove what I'm saying today. If I could prove to the board members on good faith, I have no problem with that. If my words alone today does not do it, having testing, I have no problem with that. I'd be more than willing, and I will comply this time. That's not a problem.
So when you say you drink sometime, I hear you saying, just want to make sure I'm understanding,
Sure,
that you would not drink.
that's correct. I would quit drinking. I'm not going to sit up here and say, I don't drink. I'm telling you, right now I'm speaking the truth. I would quit drinking. I would learn these 12 steps. I would learn the word sobriety. I don't know none of that. But it's not a problem for me to quit drinking, to go through the whole process. It's not a problem whatsoever. I work out 5 days a week. I take really good care of myself. I'm 48 years old. So drinking is not a problem for me whatsoever. And to prove that to the board, if I needed to take tests for drug and alcohol, I'd have no problem with that. If there was a cost, I'd have no problem with that. Just so I could go back to be a psychiatric technician.
And you also mentioned you work out on a regular basis.
Yes, I go to the gym.
Is that a stress releaser, or does it help you manage life better?
It is a stress reliever. Sir, it's also makes me feel better about myself, which in the past, people would make bad decisions. I make bad decisions. You think, oh, let me just open a beer. That'll make me feel better. No, going to the gym for 2 hours, having a really good workout, and when you walk out of there, you feel really good about yourself. You feel relaxed, fulfilled. And I do that 4 to 5 days a week.
As I'm listening to you, I'm learning some new things that I didn't know before. You said initially your network or your support was family, the elder who lives in the neighborhood, but now I hear you saying additionally, one of the supports that helps you is daily exercise.
That's correct.
Is there anything else?
The family network, the social network that I have, plus exercise. I do have boys that I actually like a father figure to that are not my own, that I've just past weekend, I taught them how to play basketball. That's 8 and 9 years old. So I do have a good resources, networks out there to help me.
All right, thank you. No further questions.
Thank you.
Ms. Dozo.
No questions at this time, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Maxey?
Yes, good morning. You provided 2 documents, well, you provided a couple documents today, 2 letters of recommendation in your support. Mrs. Castaneda?
Castaneda, yes.
You know, provided you with some good reference. And what was your connection to her again?
She was a former employee, coworker, friend, and over the years we stayed friends. And we just continue talking. She's helped me a lot, gave me a lot of good advice as far as with all the bad mistakes I made. I never talked to her as much as after this. That was my biggest problem here. I kept everything to myself, trying to take care of everything, and I failed at it.
Mm-hmm. And then the second one was from Miss Westbay?
Yes.
What is your relationship with her?
She's a friend. She was a retired police officer. And when I joined a gym membership at InShape, she was actually a worker there for new memberships. And from that day forward, we just became friends. She's elder woman that, you know, always has really good advice, especially being a retired police officer.
And so would you say these are also two coping mechanisms that you've been utilizing to deal with stress?
That's correct. Yes.
My colleague just asked a couple questions around your other coping mechanisms, the gym membership. What are some other things? There has to be some other things, because the challenge I'm having with this is that we all go through tragedies in our lives. One day, we're all going to find someone that we're close to pass away. What today, different from the past, is different? Because you're going to go through death again.
Yes.
And so how will you deal with those coping mechanisms?
I'm reaching out to the network. If I have a loss of a family member or a friend, I will seek counseling. I pray. I read the Bible. These are my own personal things that I do that help me cope to get through, and before I did it. So that's why I feel that I have peace today that I didn't have peace 7, 9 years ago.
No further questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Carpenter.
My questions have been answered, but thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Turner.
Yes, Your Honor. Good morning.
Good morning.
So there's some accusations in the past of falsification of records. Could you tell me, and you've talked about how that you had emotional stressors in your life in the past. Could you tell me how that tied into falsification of records, and what assurances that we'll have in the future that we won't have to worry about that? Because as you know, you need to be accurate with patient records, and the board expects you to be honest and truthful when you complete an application with them. So could you tell me about that?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to elaborate on that. What happened was, it was November of 2009. I was working at a prison, and we had just came back from MedPass, and we had an alarm. And at the time, before the alarm, I was discontinue the patient's medication. And the process of that is writing down the medication, the dose, the amount, the patient, the CDC number, logging that down, and then putting it into the return pharmacy secure box. Well, the alarm went off as I was writing them. I shoved them in my scrub pocket, grabbed our medical bag, attended to the building. There was an altercation. Another inmate sliced the other inmate. So we had to do first aid until the ambulance arrived. Well, after all that was done, and just dealing with that scene, which was pretty gruesome scene, wrote our reports, went back to the building, the clinic, washed up, wrote the report as far as what we did, who we notified as far as that altercation. Well, it was already 2 o'clock. Our shift ended at 2 p.m. The next shift came in. We gave the report, told them what just happened. Well, when I went home, then I realized I had the inmate's medication. One inmate, which was the 2 medication, it was amoxicillin and ibuprofen. Those were the dangerous medications that was mentioned. I told my ex-wife, but at the moment, it was my wife at the time, of November 2009. I told him I would put him in the medicine cabinet. I'll take him back to work the next day. Well, that evening was not a good evening at home. We had arguments. Like I mentioned, in January 2010, I moved out and filed for a divorce. But when I put it in the medicine cabinet, I forgot I left it there. When I moved out, she notified the PD. They came, they got the evidence, they notified the prison, and then the prison notified the boards, and that's how the investigation went through. It was inadvertently. I didn't want to keep his medication. I didn't want amoxicillin nor ibuprofen. But I took it home. I was going to take it back. That's why I saved the original packets to take back.
All right, so it's my understanding we're not supposed to necessarily go over the past history, but
Okay.
so there's falsification of documents somewhere. And we just want to make sure that you are rehabilitated and we don't have to worry about
Yes.
this occurring again if you're granted probation or reinstatement in the future.
The falsification of document was me saying that I placed them in the lock pharmacy return box while I had them on possession. So yes, that was a falsification.
All right.
There was an altercation that we had an emergency alarm to attend to.
All right. And the accusation of having contact with a patient, to follow up on my fellow board member's question about that, it seems that are you still denying that that ever occurred?
Yes, that did not occur. There was a incident on that building where my lanyard got broken off. That client used it to go in and out of the doors, but I was never holding hands with her or doing anything inappropriate. There's been incidents where I had to, we as Psychiatric had to detain her and place her in 5 points. That's the only time there was a physical contact.
And do you understand, at least it appears to me, that your rehabilitation was questioned because you continued to deny that you were involved with this patient. So I just want to make sure you're still denying.
Yes, there was no personal involvement as far as a work involvement, as far as a patient, staff.
All right. And probation, we've given it to you before and you didn't comply.
Correct.
But you're sure that you'd be able to comply this time?
This time I will be able to comply. I realize and do not argue the fact that I did not comply. That's the reason why I didn't attend the 2015 hearing, because I knew I failed. I waited 4 years to prove to the board, to the judge, that I have not gotten in trouble in 6 years, that I've learned my lesson, and now I'm willing to come up with a plan and to pay back the recovery costs. I proved it to, like I mentioned, the other courts, to other members, that I had this effect, but BVBNPT is the only place that I'm not able to correct that. And that's why I'm here today, asking to correct that. And whatever the board decides as far as probation, drug, alcohol tests, the garnishment, I have no problem with that. If I was not sincere, I would not be here today asking for this.
Dr. Mountain?
Good morning. I just have one quick question. You have mentioned several times going back to work as a psych tech. I'm wondering, do you have any potential employment lined up? Have you spoken to anybody? Do you still have contacts?
My plan is to, if I was allowed to go back as a psychiatric technician, my plan is to go back to, can I say the name as far as where I want to go?
You can, unless it's confidential information, sir.
Okay, well, it wouldn't be going back to Corcoran, because I feel I would like to go back to another prison and start fresh there and work my way up to be a senior, to be a unit supervisor, because now I have a lot of experience, life lessons that I could teach clients, patients, and also your coworkers, staffing.
I'm just wondering if you have any contacts with people as you're considering future employment.
As of now, for us right now, no, I don't. But if I was to get my license, getting a license as a psychiatric technician, it's so needed in the field that it would not be a problem getting an employer there's 33 prisons in California, so it would not be a problem.
And you're not held to any geographic region? You would apply at those prisons
Yes, yes,
to go back to work in the same environment that you came from?
yes, that's correct.
Thank you very much. No other questions.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Steinheimer?
Thank you, Your Honor. Sir, just a few quick questions. First, with respect to Exhibit 2, the 2 letters of support that you submitted today, does Ms. Castaneda, is she aware of your past criminal background and issues with the board?
Ms. Castaneda is aware of it. Kimberly Westbay is aware of it. I mentioned Kimberly Westbay is a retired police officer, so she would give me a lot of counseling.
Okay, thank you. I just want to make sure if they're recommending you that they're aware of those
Yes,
past
they're
actions.
fully aware of it, sir.
Okay. Second, you also submitted an employee performance review from your work at Costco, but you haven't worked at Costco since approximately early in 2018. Is that correct?
That's correct. I was hired as a seasonal employee, and mainly the works I've been doing is as a temp for a registry company, and it's just a short-term assignments.
Okay. You list your current employment in your petition as a placement professional doing work as a forklift operator. Is that still your employment?
They call me to go back, but currently I'm working at Best Buy Distribution Center as a forklift operator. And they granted me the day off today to be here
And how long have you worked for Best Buy?
for 2 months.
Okay.
And I'm hired as a seasonal employee there
So that job will end at some point?
in January. Yes.
Okay. After that, do you have any work lined up after January?
It's just checking back with the temp agencies.
Okay. In your employment history that you put in the petition, you listed the Corcoran State Hospital that you worked at for a period of time, long period of time.
9 years.
And then it says you resigned under unfavorable circumstances. And so I just wanted to know what were those unfavorable circumstances under which you resigned?
I resigned knowing that my license would be revoked. I was well aware of that. I didn't even argue the fact of that. I felt that was fair.
Okay, so you resigned prior to the revocation, but because you saw it coming down the road?
That's correct.
Okay. And then I believe you state in your application that you understand that you would probably have to take the licensing exam again and pass it.
That's correct, and that wouldn't be a problem because the first time I took it out of school, I passed the first time. So I'd now been 11 years as a site tech, that would not be a problem to pass.
Okay. And you've testified that if you are placed on probation, which you likely would be if you're reinstated, that you're now able and willing to comply with all the terms.
That's correct.
Okay, including terms regarding alcohol, abstaining from alcohol and drugs, and alcohol and drug testing.
That's correct, and whatever the board members, each of the board members suggest, recommend, I have no problem with that.
Okay. Thank you, sir. That's all I have.
Thank you.
I'll ask the board members one more time if they have any further questions. Ms. Norton?
I do have one question, if you can help clear something up for me. You might need to refer to your packet there on A004, where it says list coursework and attach proof of completion. You listed 3 courses there and then crossed them all out. Can you explain why you did that?
Okay. Yes, the reason for that was because I didn't get a certificate. I just read the material, but for the certificate, you have to pay the cost, and I didn't have the funds to pay it.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Sellers?
Yeah, I guess I have one more question. And because you're being reinstated, I feel like I have to go all the way back to the beginning of the whole thing. You now claim that you had lost your badge and it was used surreptitiously by somebody else, is what you're stating, correct?
I'm saying that my lanyard fell off, and I'm thinking it may have been used. I don't know that for a fact. That I didn't even
My question is, how did you recover your badge? Did you
I-
file any report?
I didn't recover my badge.
You never
It
recovered
was,
the,
it was placed in the Psychiatric office anonymously.
and you never filed a report that your badge, that's a pretty big deal, losing your badge inside of a secure facility.
That night, what took place, the badge showing up was just glad to have it back.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Gerkin?
No, thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, Ms. Amazola?
No, thank you.
Dr. Baste Martinez?
No, Your Honor.
Ms. Dozo?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Maxey?
Nothing for me.
Ms. Carpenter?
No, thank you.
Ms. Turner?
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Dr. Mountain?
Yeah, I do have one final question. So you said that you resigned when you realized that you were going to lose your license. So you resigned from your state employment at the prison, is that correct?
That's correct.
And so because you resigned before you lost your license, does that mean you're still in good standing with the state?
I believe that's correct.
Okay, thank you very much. No further questions.
Thank you.
Mr. Steinheimer, anything further?
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Okay. Mr. Coronado, do you have any other witnesses you intend to call today?
No, Your Honor.
Is there a final statement you'd like to make to the board before we end the petition hearing?
I have one, Your Honor. What I said today, being here, it's the truth. I mean, I stand by it. I don't have nothing fancy to say. I don't have a long story to say. It's just the straight to the point, actual truth, or my truth.
Thank you, sir. At this point, this petition hearing has concluded. The record can close and the case is submitted. We're off the record. So the next one is the next case to be called will be Tiara Johnson.
Where thing, pull it out, it's like folded on itself. Yeah.
Thank you. You this one too? Okay.
The thing was folded. Oh, the cord, that part of the cord. Okay. Huh. Is it still plugged in?
Tiara Johnson. The OAH number, the last four is 1008.
Thank you.
Are we ready or do you need a few minutes? Okay. We're all present, so we can go on the record. Good morning, everyone. We are on the record before the Board of Vocational Nursing and Psychiatric Technicians to review the petition for reinstatement by Tiara Johnson. This is Office of Administrative Hearings, case number 2019-101008. My name is Tiffany King, and I am an administrative law judge with the OAH, who's been assigned to preside over these hearings. Prior to going on the record, all board members identified themselves, and we do have a quorum of the board present. If I can please have the appearance of counsel for the record, Mr. Steinheimer.
Thank you. Andrew Steinheimer, Deputy Attorney General. I'm appearing on behalf of the Attorney General pursuant to Government Code Section 11522 and Business and Professions Code Section 2878.7. I'm representing the people of the state of California. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Johnson, I will note for the record that you're present and representing yourself today. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And were you previously advised that you could have hired an attorney to represent you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Johnson, you were also present when I met with petitioners prior to today's hearings to discuss today's procedure. Is that correct?
Yes, I was.
Do you have any questions regarding this proceeding before we begin?
I don't.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Steinheimer, I turn it over to you.
Thank you. First, I'd like to have marked for identification purposes Exhibit 1, which has been provided to Your Honor, as well as copies distributed to the board and to Ms. Johnson. Exhibit 1 consists of the petition for reinstatement and supporting documents, which are identified as pages A1 through A20. Petitioner's supporting documents include 2 letters of support from her employer and a friend, and evidence of the dismissal of respondents' convictions, as well as a transcript from courses taken through Fort Hays University. Exhibit 1 also consists of the license certification for Ms. Johnson, which is found at page B1, a notice of hearing, which is pages C1 through C4, and then the default decision and order from the Board of Vocational Nursing and Psychiatric Technicians, case number VN-2012-1753, which was effective October 24th, 2015. And I'd like to have Exhibit 1 admitted into evidence at this time.
Ms. Johnson, do you have any objection?
No, ma'am.
Exhibit 1 is admitted.
Thank you. Now I'd like to provide a brief summary of the petitioner's license history with the board. Petitioner's vocational nursing license number is VN228823. The license was first issued on August 13th, 2007. The license expired on September 30th, 2014. A first amended accusation was filed before the board against petitioner on January 27th, 2015, in case number VN 2012-1753. The accusation was based on criminal convictions, failure to respond to the board's inquiries. Respondent was convicted of disorderly conduct / prostitution in February 2013, November 2013, and April 2014. Petitioner failed to file a notice of defense or respond to the accusation, and effective October 24th, 2015, the board issued a default decision and order revoking petitioner's license, and petitioner is now requesting the board to reinstate her license.
Thank you. Ms. Johnson, this is now going to be your opportunity to present any statement or any documents you'd like to have the board consider. If I could swear you in first before we begin, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly state, under penalty of perjury, that the evidence you will give in this matter shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. And I will ask before we take your statement, do you have any documents that you would like the board to consider that weren't part of your petition packet?
I have 2 additional documents.
Okay, can you describe what they are?
One is a transcript for school just to show that I am still currently enrolled in school, because I know the previous one is a year old, and I have a new character letter from a new employer that I'm currently employed with.
Okay, and do you have copies for the board members?
I do.
Okay, thank you. Have you given a copy to Mr. Steinheimer yet?
I have not. Here you go. Do I just pass
If
it out?
if you could bring them up here, that would be great. Thank you. So I will mark the transcript as Exhibit 2, and I'm going to mark the character reference letter as Exhibit 3. Put these up. Mr. Steinheimer, have you had a chance to review Exhibits 2 and 3?
I have, Your Honor. I have no objection.
Exhibits 2 and 3 are admitted.
You have to tell him.
Oh, I think they're already collated.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
They'll collect it.
Do all the board members have Exhibits 2 and 3? Just, okay. Ms. Johnson, whenever you're ready, you can provide your statement.
Yes. At the end of first I would like to say thank you. Thank you for having me here today. I really appreciate it. I've been waiting 2 years for this day, so thank you for that. At the end of 2014 was the moment that I really realized that I wanted to make a change in my life and to stop dealing with this person that entered me into that lifestyle for about 2 years. It was a very dysfunctional relationship and abusive relationship, and I ended up losing everything: my place of residence, transportation, and my 2 kids were living with their grandparents.
So I stayed with my mom for a little bit, trying to figure out what was the next step for me to make. I started looking for a job, and eventually I ended up, I believe, towards the end of 2015, moving out to another county and finally taking my kids with me. I got on government assistance so that I was able to somewhat provide for my kids, and moved in with my sister to a whole nother county because I didn't feel comfortable being in the same vicinity of where I was doing the things that I was doing. I believe 2016, I finally found employment. I go to church, not every Sunday, but at least every other month. I'm really big on meditation now. I have not spoken with that person since 2014. I feel so blessed today because I still have my sanity after going through what I went through back then. And my kids keep me going. I'm so proud of them. They're both honor roll students. And I've been enrolled in school for the past 2.5 years. So I've been working, going to school, and taking care of my kids. So I'm pretty busy. And I do exercise, not as much as I'd like, but I do exercise maybe 3 times a week. That just helps me to feel better, not really stress relieving, but just makes me feel good. I eat healthier. I've been eating healthier for the past, say, 4 years, more vegetables, no junk food. I feel that makes me feel better as well. And that's all.
Thank you. Ms. Norton, do you have any questions?
Yes, Your Honor. Can you Did you see anything wrong with the behaviors that what you were arrested for?
Yes, I do.
Okay. What's wrong with them?
They're morally wrong. And looking back now, I honestly can't even imagine what I couldn't imagine myself doing that now. I believe I was naive. I was in my mid-20s, young, and just divorced from my daughter's father. And I believe I was in a vulnerable state as well when I met this person. So, yeah, I believe it's morally wrong.
Okay. So you mentioned that a person entered you into the lifestyle.
Yes.
What was going on in your life that you were so vulnerable to be entered into that lifestyle? Were there other situations, like were you drinking? Were you using any other drugs? Or how did you get into that? And the reason I ask is because we have to have some sort of rehabilitation, and I need to know that you wouldn't be vulnerable again to being entered into a immoral behavior.
No, I was not on any drugs or alcohol. I believe I was more so seeking the male attention. And when I met this person, he was really, really, really overly nice. And we basically formed a sort of relationship before it was introduced. And once it was introduced, it wasn't introduced for what it was. It was more so like you're just going to go on a date, a dinner date with someone. It was, looking back now and even speaking on it, I feel like it sounds very stupid, but that's what happened.
Thank you.
Mr. Sellers?
I think I probably know the answer, but I just want to ask, why didn't you appear before the board when all of this happened?
So when I became involved with this person, maybe 4 or 5 months after that, I ended up losing a place of residence. And when I wanted to finally petition for my license, I found out these letters were sent out that I didn't receive because I wasn't, I was jumping around from place to place and I didn't receive the letters. I didn't have a stable home. I didn't receive.
Would you have, if you had received the notice properly, do you believe you would have appeared before us then?
Honestly, I'm not sure.
Okay, that's a fair
'Cause,
answer.
Yeah, I was in a bad situation and I felt like I was being like, well, no, everything I did was being watched. So
So you're free and clear of all of this, all of this person?
yes,
And all
yes,
that
I haven't
way
seen this
behind?
person since 2014.
Okay. How about your skills as a nurse? It's been a while since you practiced. Do you feel like you would be able to, I believe I'm not positive, but I believe you'll probably have to retake are you prepared for that?
Yes, I will be prepared for that. If I need to take a refresher course, I will do that. A preparation class for the exam, I would do that as well.
What was it? And I don't see anything in the record. Did you have any disciplinary, besides the police, that conviction? Did you have any discipline from your previous employers in the nursing field? Was that all clean?
So what happened was I ended up quitting my job. And so no, I didn't have any discipline.
But prior to that, you never had any write-ups for anything
Oh,
you
just
did?
within my job.
Yeah, within your job?
No,
all
no,
good?
I loved being a nurse. I believed my patients loved me, my employers did. I've never had any issues at work with any employer.
Okay, that's all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gerkin?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Ms. Johnson,
Good morning.
or afternoon, I guess it is now. You had 5 misdemeanor convictions,
Yes,
and you received orders for dismissal
yes.
pursuant to subsequent judicial action. Have you been known by any other names other than the one you've given today and is associated with your nursing license?
No, not associated with my nursing license.
Can you take a look at page 819?
I'm sorry, A19?
Yes, that's correct.
I'm sorry, I can't find.
The page number is at the top of the page in the center.
Oh, I see. Okay, yes.
Is that you?
That is me, but it's not me. I used that name when I was arrested one time.
Yeah, I asked you if you used any other names, right?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you said associated with my license. I've under my license name, it's always been Tiara.
Okay, so that's it? Did you ever get arrested out of state or anything?
Yes, I have.
Where's that documented?
I'm actually still waiting on those documents. I don't have those documents. Before I came, one of the employers here called me and asked me about that. And she said that they didn't need to reschedule me because it's fine that I didn't have those documents. Because I told her that I would have them soon, but I didn't have them just yet. I'm waiting on them from Nevada Services Attorney's Law Office.
Okay, you didn't list that in your petition for reinstatement.
Yeah. When I initially filled out the petition, I honestly forgot about the out-of-state charge, and I recently remembered when I got the call about the charge. So that's when I got all the paperwork together, and the Nevada Services Law Attorney's Office has taken care of that, and I should be receiving some papers within about 2 weeks.
Did you ever report that to the board?
I never reported any of these findings to the board, only what you guys have, and then what I filled out in my petition statement. So the from Nevada is only when I spoke with, I forgot her name, just a few months ago from you guys, one of your employers here.
Well, when did that happen?
In the beginning of, or mid 2014?
All
I
right,
don't
thank
know
you.
the exact date,
I have
sorry.
nothing else, Your Honor.
Thank you. Ms. Amazola?
Good afternoon. Thank you for coming before us. I understand this is a difficult time for you to speak about this, but we're trying to understand the implications. Our role here is to protect the public and to ensure that you have been rehabilitated. Now, my question is with you, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you said I was being watched and by this individual. Do you want to explain a little bit more about what was happening? You don't have to talk about how is that impacting you emotionally, and also what you have done to rehabilitate yourself from that emotional damage that was being caused to you?
What I mean by being watched was I couldn't do anything by myself. Not anything. Even sleeping, I had to be helped while sleeping, so I wouldn't leave. And as far as in rehabilitating myself, meditation has helped me out a lot. A few years ago, I used to cry more when speaking to people about it, and I've gotten a lot better emotionally, talking about what happened. But really, honestly, meditating for the last 2.5 years has helped me out a lot. Just staying present in the moment and just cherishing, what I have now. I've come so far from what happened to me after, the consequences of what I had done. And I'm in a much, much better place now. I feel safe. My kids are safe. We're all in a safe environment. Everyone is doing so well.
Mhm.
And I'm just happy for, what I have now. And that's basically my rehabilitation, just living in the present moment, my meditation, and being grateful for what I have now.
In addition to being watched, were you held against your will and in this person's home, or were you? I'm just trying to understand this relationship and to ensure. Yes, just
I guess I would say yes, I was held against my will because the times that I did want to leave or tried to leave, I would get abused and forced to stay in, whether it's a car or, an apartment or a hotel or wherever like we were at that moment in time. So, when I did finally leave, I actually had to hop out of the car in the middle of the street and call a paramedic so that I can go to the hospital because I knew that he couldn't do anything to me in the hospital. And then that's when I ended up at my mom's house after that.
So it sounds like you went through emotional and physical abuse from this individual?
Yes.
Okay. If the board were to reinstate you, would you be willing to get professional help to talk about this?
Sure, I would.
Okay. Is there a reason why you haven't thus far?
I don't know. Maybe ashamed to tell the doctors about it. I've just kind of had the support of my family, my mom and my sisters, and a couple of my cousins that like really know the situation in depth, and God and going to church, and then my meditation. So I guess I've just kind of leaned on that, but I would consider seeking
Would you
therapy.
consider or will you do it?
Yes, I'll do it.
Okay. I think I'm okay. Thank you at this time. Thank you.
Dr. Bazde Martinez?
Hi,
Hi.
how you doing?
I'm good. Thank
Okay.
you.
I want to kind of follow up just a little bit. Oftentimes in cases like this, drugs, alcohol, or other forces are included. Was there any such involvement in your case?
Well, I do drink occasionally, but I've never been on drugs, and like I said, I've drank, but I wouldn't say I abused alcohol, but I did drink.
Okay. And you speak of this individual. This individual never forced, suggested, made you use or drink?
No. I think the times that there was alcohol there, I wanted to drink.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
The times that there was alcohol present, I wanted to drink. So I wasn't forced to drink.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You have 2 children, did I remember correctly?
Yes.
During that time, remind us where the children were?
They were with their grandparents, their grandmothers to be exact.
Okay. Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you. Ms. Dozo?
No questions at this time.
You, Mr. Maxey?
Yes, thank you, Ms. Johnson, again, for being here this afternoon. Congratulations, number one, for the turnaround that you've made in your life. I think it should be commended. When anyone has to deal with abuse and have to go through the mental challenges that you had to go through because of this abuse, it is hard to recover from this in your life.
Thank you.
And so thank you for being here today and sharing those stories. Couple observations from the documents you provided, particularly on the transcript.
Okay.
Is Fort Hays State an online program?
It's an online program, yes.
Okay. Number one. Number two, it seems like you you fancy math more so than science in some areas.
Yeah.
And I just want to commend you on getting better grades than I probably would have in calculus. But how do you compare the trade tech experience in person versus the online?
I'm sorry, say that.
The trade tech experience that you had before, how do you compare the two?
Oh, I do prefer an in-class setting, but that was so long ago before I had my kids, and at this moment, I feel it's more feasible for me and for my kids to do it online because I can make my own schedule, and get things done, before the deadlines and stuff like that, and be able to work.
And do you intend on going in person to take some courses? Because what I've also observed is that none of these are science courses. Most of them, if all, are not science courses, except for I think you're currently in a program that's doing biology and a couple biology courses, but nothing else since you've been in school, right?
Oh, well, I'm majoring in accounting.
Okay. So you're
Yes.
majoring in
Yeah,
okay.
I'm majoring. That's why you see all of the math
So
there.
today, are you saying that you still want to be do you want your license to be an accountant, or do you want to be, what do you want to do with just?
I do want my nursing license. I do want to go back to nursing. Just 2.5 years ago when I decided to enroll back into school, I was trying to figure out, well, what else, could I do besides nursing? So that's what I had chose to do at the time.
And why is this license important for you?
This license is important to me because I feel that it's like I get like a piece back that I lost from those mistakes that I made, and I miss it. I do miss nursing. I miss helping take care of people. I miss being like that person for people that they could talk to. There's so many patients in facilities that don't have family there, and just a listening ear, like it just makes me feel good to listen to other people, and that and the abundance of opportunity that there's around me. I right now I drive like an hour and a half to work, and being that nursing was like all I ever knew since I went to nursing school at 19. So nursing is like all I ever knew, and now I can't really relate to much other stuff, and I'm not like certified in anything else, and I just want to go back to nursing. And honestly, because like I said, like about 2.5 years ago, I found out that I had to wait until like October of 2018 to submit paperwork for a petition, and then I just got for today. So it's been about 2.5 years that this whole process, which is the same process of how long I've actually been in school. So I kind of make that decision around the same time. But yeah, I would be ever so grateful to just have my nursing license back.
Thank you for being here. No more further questions.
Thank you. Ms. Carpenter?
Yes, your answers have provided the clarification that I need on most of my questions. I want to congratulate you on escaping an abusive relationship. I know how difficult it can be. Thank you.
Ms. Turner?
Yes, Your Honor. Okay. So now what is the status of the Nevada case?
So the status of the Nevada case, I submitted the paperwork for dismissal almost 3 months ago. About 3 weeks ago, I called to check on the status, and the attorney's office said that the judge has all the paperwork, and that as soon as they get the documents that they would mail them to me. So I called them again about a week ago, and they said that the dismissal was done, that they're going to send me the papers, but I'm still waiting for the papers. So when I spoke with them about 2 days ago now, she said that it should be there any day. I live in Rancho Cucamonga, so it was like a 6-hour drive out here. And I was hoping to receive the papers in a couple of days. And I had my sister check the mailbox yesterday morning. This morning it's still not there yet, but yeah. But I would be more than willing to send the paperwork in as soon as I get it, if I could do that.
So now let's talk about these transcripts. You've recently studied accounting, literature, microeconomics, biology. Has that helped you to strengthen you mentally and emotionally so that in the future you would be able to resist the influences of the person like you had encountered before that led you to the life you led in the past?
Honestly, I can say with school, it's put me back in the realm of, responsibilities, even just with my kids and working and stuff too, because for like a 2-year period, everything was just crazy. But I don't know if I can say school really does that for me, like the question that you're asking me. It's more so the learning experience itself and what it did to myself and my family that I could never put my kids through, like, ever again. Like, they're never going to be without me, like, ever again, But I would say it's more so the learning experience, not school.
Not being educated.
Oh, being educated. Yeah, sure. I thought you meant like the classes itself.
No, being educated.
Yes, definitely being educated helps with that. It makes me feel like I'm becoming an even better person, just educational wise as well.
Thank you.
Dr. Mountain?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
And thank you for being here. I just have a question about where did you work when you were in LVN?
I worked at a facility called Country Villa East Rehabilitation Center, and I worked there as mainly a wound care nurse for 5 years.
And should your license be reinstated, what are your plans? What type of nursing do you plan to pursue, or have you thought about it?
Well, I've thought about home care, and I have a few family members that work in Kaiser hospitals. So I was thinking about maybe applying for Kaiser's or home care. I'm not sure if I want to do an elderly facility again, but yeah, I have one of those two, I think.
And do you have any support systems within nursing that kind of can be your guide should you go back to being a nurse? I mean, things change over the course of time, and certainly things have changed in the last 3 years.
Yes. I do have family members in the medical field, and I do still have friends that I've known from past employees or coworkers, I mean. That like tell me certain things that's going on, and that everything's computerized. Now, actually, when I left, they were just going computerized and getting rid of the charts and stuff like that. But yes, I do still, and I do have real friends like 3 friends that I still talk to that are also currently LVNs, and one that actually opened up like a shelter, a home shelter.
Nice.
Her and her husband.
So would you make a plan for transitioning back into nursing? I mean, I think that could be really stressful. And I'm just wondering if you've thought about a plan to transition back, or some ways that you'll prepare yourself should your license be reinstated?
I think that taking a refresher course would help me. The thought of working as a nurse again I don't feel any stressor about that, about going back into the nursing field. I more so feel like happiness about it. I don't feel, there's no thought of stress at all when it comes to thinking about transitioning back into nursing at all for me.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Steinheimer.
Thank you, Your Honor. Just a couple quick questions, Ms. Johnson. First, I just want to confirm, 2014 is the last time that you've had an issue with the law in terms of a conviction?
Yes.
And then since that date, no convictions or criminal arrests?
No.
Okay. And we have evidence of the dismissals of all your California convictions, and you just testified that the Nevada one, it's your understanding, it has also been dismissed. You're just waiting the paperwork.
Correct.
With respect to your current job, what have you been doing while you haven't been able to work as a nurse? I know you're going to school, taking care of your kids, but can you just describe a little bit about what you've also done for employment?
I'm sorry, with what I'm currently, who I'm currently employed with now.
Yeah, who you're currently employed with and what you're doing for them.
Yeah, so I'm an accounting assistant right now, and basically what I'm doing is I record expenses, I do payroll, and I take care of tax documents. I make sure when things need to be filed at certain deadlines. I set up payment plans for franchise tax board for the company.
And what's the company's name?
Desert Fox Investments.
Okay, and that's one of the letters you submitted is from the...
Yes, that's my current employer.
Okay. All right, I think that's all the questions I have, Your Honor.
Okay, I asked the board members one last time. Ms. Norton, do you have any further questions?
I do. So I've listened to all of your testimony, and I've listened to the questions from my fellow board members. And where I'm still struggling, you seem somewhat detached from the trauma that you went through. You're either detached from it or it doesn't, well, I'll just leave it there. You didn't really, I understand the meditation, I understand the support and all of that, but I'm struggling with, you were working as a nurse and then got entered into a life of prostitution, lost everything. And so what I struggle with is what was happening there and how did that happen? And what did you learn from it? How have you healed from it? Because we have to determine if you're better, for lack of a bit different word now. And you seem really detached from the trauma that I can only imagine, or you didn't suffer any trauma from it. And then you seem somewhat not stressed at all about returning to the nursing field, even though you've been out of it for quite some time. So can you explain to me that dynamic? Because I'm really struggling with that.
Yeah. Well, I'm really trying to remain calm. In fact, I don't want to start tearing up here. I almost a couple times. I'm not detached from what happened to me at all. I'm more so just trying to stay strong and want you guys to be able to understand what I'm saying. I know there's a big chunk in there missing, and it's maybe because it's hard to talk about all the details that went into that. Yeah, it's hard to talk about the details from the time I met the person to how I ended up quitting my job and up until the point and everything in between that until the end of 2014. It's just a lot. It's a lot.
Did you go to any therapy?
No, I didn't go to any therapy,
Okay, thank you.
but I'd be,
Did you want to finish your answer?
yeah, I'd be more than willing to go to therapy.
Thank you. Ms. Norton, did you have any other questions?
No, thank you.
Mr. Sellers?
Just to follow up, I would encourage you, regardless of the decision we make, to get some help. Sometimes as healers, it's difficult to be the patient. It's okay though, it really is. Thank you.
Mr. Gerkin?
No, Your Honor.
Ms. Amazola?
Yes, I know that there's a pending document for the, one is in Nevada. Is that something, I just want to know, like, can you tell us what it is so that when we are making our decision, we know like because we don't have any information on it. So was it a traffic violation? Was it the same type of violation? What was it? So that as we make these recommendations, we understand what was happening.
Yes, it's the same type of
Violation.
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Baste Martinez?
No further questions, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Dozo?
No questions, thank you.
Mr. Maxey?
No further questions, just a comment again. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Ms. Carpenter?
No questions.
Turner?
No further questions, Your Honor.
And Dr. Mountain?
No further questions, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Steinheimer, do you have any further questions?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. At this time, Ms. Johnson, do you want to make any final statement to the board before your case is submitted?
Just thank you for having me here. I've been waiting, again for a while to appear in front of you guys, and just thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Johnson. At this time, this petition hearing has concluded. The record is closed and the case is submitted. We can go off the record. Thank you very much, everyone.
We're not going to take another case. Oh, okay. I was like, I need to get something before we go to the case. Like feeding myself vitamins.
We'll announce that the board is going to adjourn for 1 hour for lunch. We'll resume back at 1:30. Thank you.